Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You often hear people say the news is full of lies, but most of the time that's not exactly right. Much of what you see on television or read the New York Times is in fact true in the literal sense. It could pass one of the media's own fact checks. Lawyers would be willing to sign off on it. In fact, they may have. But that doesn't make it true. It's not true. At the most basic level, the news you consume is a lie of the stealthiest and most insidious kind. Facts have been withheld on purpose, along with proportion and perspective. You are being manipulated. How does that work? Let's see. If I tell you that a man has been unjustly arrested for armed robbery, that is not, strictly speaking, a lie. He may have been framed. At this point, there's been no trial, so no one can really say. But if I don't mention the fact that the same man has been arrested for the same crime 6 times before, am I really informing you? No, I'm not. I'm misleading you. And that's what the news media are doing in every story that matters, every day of the week, every week of the year. What's it like to work in a system like that? After more than 30 years in the middle of it, we could tell you stories. The best you can hope for in the news business at this point is the freedom to tell the fullest truth that you can. But there are always limits. And you know that if you bump up against those limits often enough, you will be fired for it. That's not a guess, it's guaranteed. Every person who works in English language media understands that. The rule of what you can't say defines everything. It's filthy, really, and it's utterly corrupting. You can't have a free society if people aren't allowed to say what they think is true. Speech is the fundamental prerequisite for democracy. That's why it's enshrined in the first of our constitutional amendments. Amazingly, as of tonight, there aren't many platforms left that allow free speech. The last big one remaining in the world, the only one, is Twitter, where we are now. Twitter has long served as the place where our national conversation incubates and develops. Twitter is not a partisan site. Everybody's allowed here, and we think that's a good thing. And yet, for the most part, the news that you see analyzed on Twitter comes from media organizations that are themselves thinly disguised propaganda outlets. You see it on cable news, you talk about it on Twitter. The result may feel like a debate, but actually the gatekeepers are still in charge. We think that's a bad system. We know exactly how it works, and we're sick of it. Starting soon, we'll be bringing a new version of the show we've been doing for the last 6.5 years to Twitter. We'll be bringing some other things too, which we'll tell you about. But for now, we're just grateful to be here. Free speech is the main right that you have. Without it, you have no others. See you soon.
Welcome to another episode, or the second episode of the Post-Duopoly show. We are hosting on RBN, and we have Due Dissidence and Heartlands Media. Let's go to Due Dissidence first. What's up, Due Dissidence?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having us back. Great to be here. Just got back from Los Angeles. Let me tell you guys, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis renewed their vows this weekend. What a bash they threw. They had Bruce Willis there. Cameron Diaz was there. Wonderful guys. And let me tell you, there was somebody else who was there. I don't know if you ever heard this guy, Gavin Newsom. I swear this guy's going to be president someday. He's going to be president someday. Maybe even this time. Because if you notice, the voters in New Hampshire are very angry at Joe Biden. And there's a chance Gavin Newsom might get in. I'm telling you. So keep an eye out. He was very convincing over at the cocktail bar there. So just a heads up, just a little scoop. But thank you to Ashton and Mila for having us, and I'm glad I could make it back in time to do this stream with you guys.
Right on. Thanks, Austin, Ashton.
And watch out for that Gavin Newsom. I'm telling you, the guy's going places.
Oh yeah, dang! Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. The wedding was actually at the French Laundry. So it was a little pricey, but we've been working the super chats. So
yeah, right. We made it work.
We were able to.
Oh, look at you, elite guys, man! You got to be like me. You got to sneak in, be a wedding crasher. That's all, and pretend like, hey, first time buying a suit, guys. First time. I mean, don't judge me.
We attended on a sliding scale. They had a sliding scale.
Right on.
We basically
and then we have
food.
My bad. And then we have Kid from Heartlands Media. What's up, sir?
Oh, it's so good to be here again. The people demanded a second power panel, and who are we to say no to them?
Exactly.
Exactly. Nick, what's up, my brother? RBN now representing. What's up, brother Nick?
What's popping? My friends, my family, we back again. We heard a massive demand. Email overflowed with us repeating this show. So we are back again. You guys saw the intro clip. Tucker Carlson is back on Twitter, and the censorship pushing libs are melting the fuck down. How dare you, Elon?
Yeah,
How
Elon just
dare you
posted that he's going to have, he didn't say there's going to be a special deal, but the other thing that Elon tweeted out in that message was that they might start bringing, well, he said they plan to start bringing subscription and ad revenue video models to that platform, which would be a game changer, obviously.
Of course.
So
that's the first thing I thought of.
That'd be great for me. Sorry, TJ, but that'd be great for me because I got way more followers on Twitter than we got subscribers. So
I know. That'll bring people to us.
That's
But what I was gonna say is that that was the first thing I thought of when I heard the news. I was like, oh, this is about bringing TV or bringing some sort of model to the to Twitter, making Twitter's, bringing a Netflix to Twitter or some sort of streaming Hulu like service to Twitter, and this could be like a test sort of thing. But just imagine this would be like the paradigm shifting for media, for them to be able to do this, because what if he gets the same or more subscribers this way?
True.
Like that would be a game changer. But that's my thoughts on it. Any other thoughts on the intro video?
Yeah.
Tucker
So look,
Carlson?
there's a couple things to take away from this. Number one, it's quite clear that since Twitter came under new management, Elon Musk had shook things up, some for the good and some things just didn't change. But all in all, the fact that Tucker Carlson is going to potentially have a large show on Twitter, let's be very clear here. Twitter was the area in which people like Donald Trump were able to get a huge following, and everyone on corporate media was melting down, demanding for more censorship and accountability. And the fact that Twitter's under new management, I do have to wonder just how consistent Elon Musk will be in regards towards other voices. Look, RBN, Hardlands Media, Do Dissidents, and everybody else, and yes, I do mean everybody else, will then probably have the same opportunities, potentially, that, if Elon Musk is making this space out to be for monetization and ad revenue, then so be it. I'm just really curious, though, how consistent will it be? Because good friend of Hardlands Media and of RBN and a few other independent media networks, Case Study QB, his Twitter account is still censored, and all what he's posting up there is just clips from corporate media. But if you log in incognito, Elon Musk, you should look into this. Twitter says, hey, you can't look at this. This is adult material. You can't, it's too sensitive. And as soon as you log in and you then click view it, all it is clips from Fox News, MSNBC, CNN. So that is something that needs to be addressed. Then, of course, you're going to have politicians who are going to demand more regulation. And then finally, number 3, we got to check on the AOC because she said deplatforming works, and that dog don't hunt.
I think Case Study QB said that his account was censored during the pandemic when he was putting up videos about COVID. I believe that's what he told me.
But from corporate media,
yeah, exactly. No, it was still corporate media. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was still corporate media. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the AOC clip that kid just referenced, where her response to Tucker Carlson, she was on her Instagram because apparently she like this social media star now, not a legislator. So she do these cringy ass Instagram videos where she like, I just got one response to Tucker being fired. Deplatforming works. Does it though? Because I keep seeing this pattern of people getting deplatformed. They go on another site and then they get bigger than ever. They go through a news cycle. So it's ridiculous. They keep repeating that.
That happened to Colin Cowherd in sports. He got deplatformed from one and went to Fox, and his show was bigger. His contracts are bigger. But there is a certain faction, I know all of you have seen it, of the left who would label us, this conversation, like Tucker Carlson lovers, just because we're talking about Tucker without without adding adjectives, just adding a bunch of adjectives every time we talk about him, like racist Tucker every time we refer to him, when you don't have that sort of conversation, then you're like somehow bowing down. The simple fact is this: regardless of what you say, the part that he was doing where the left this vacuum to where people are only able to go to him for coverage like this is when it came to the Ukraine war. Like, that's the problem. If we had a left where there was an outlet for that, sort of to be had, then maybe there, this gaping lane that he provides, people wouldn't sort of look to him for that sort of coverage. But what do you guys think of that part of it?
Go ahead, Keaton.
Well, that Tucker video that we just watched was the most on the nose version of a few different clips that we've seen surface of his. The first being right after he was fired. Then if you go back a little further than that, he did a monologue. I think it was the Friday before he got canned. I think it was his last broadcast, maybe second to last broadcast, where he talked about how, lots of these networks value their advertisers more than their audiences. And then we covered on our show, I don't know if you guys covered this on yours, but he went on some podcast, I forget what the podcast was, where he talked about his regrets over his years in the sort of TV news business, specifically talking about his biggest regret being supporting the Iraq War. And then he got into a more sort of systemic critique about how the media promotes certain falsehoods at the behest of certain interests that either fund the media or that the media is just interested in propping up to keep the sort of polarization, sort of hate ink game going. So we've seen him sort of over the past several months sort of make very, very slightly, more opaque or obtuse versions of this statement that we just saw, which leads me to believe that he was probably at odds with upper management at Fox for the last number of months, which could ultimately be why they fired him. Perhaps there was a straw that broke the camel's back that we don't know about yet, but that's what I think.
My guess, Russell. My guess is the block. I think it's not a coincidence that he was talking about the black socialists who were charged by the FBI, and then he was fired immediately after that. So
that's a true example because if you notice, Nick, he borrowed a line directly from that segment in this video. He says people should be allowed to say what they think is true in this country, no matter what. That's exactly word for word what he said when he did that Uhuru segment. Exactly, word for word. He took that exact phrase and plugged it right into this most recent video. So yeah, I think there was a conflict brewing for a while, and perhaps there was an incident that put upper management over the edge. Perhaps there wasn't. Perhaps it was just a drip, drip, drip kind of thing, and then there was too much water in that bucket, and they had to tip it over. Who knows? But this definitely suggests to me that he has been at odds with the execs at Fox for quite some time.
Yeah, Russell, you want to chime in? My bad. I cut Russell off a little bit earlier.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Well, for one thing, with Elon, when he first took over Twitter, you had all of those "the walls are closing in" style articles. Oh my God, it's chaos over there. It's gonna fall apart.
Twitter's not gonna be here next week.
Oh my God, it's just gonna fall off a cliff. And I said, okay, man. You can think about what this guy, whatever you want, his business history, whatever, man. He's a winner. That guy tends to win. I've been watching them. Oh my God, how many people are crying that they didn't invest in Tesla 10 years ago? You've been watching the short sellers talking about how Twitter is going to tank for as long as I can remember. And he comes out on top every time. Now, I'm not getting into the mechanics of that. That's not what I'm talking about. That guy said before he set foot in Twitter, we need to get rid of 75% of the workforce. He said that before he set one foot in the door. So then he goes in and he sets conditions that are bound to clear out 75% of the workforce. And they write all these articles like he didn't realize what he was doing when he gave them that ultimatum. That's exactly what he said he wanted before he walked in the door. He wanted to get rid of 75% of them because the company has never made a profit. It never made a profit. So you have that element of it with Tucker, and with both of them, the left is put in a very funny position because you got a guy like Elon Musk. We're leftists, man. We're not like Ayn Rand, billionaire ball lickers, man. I mean, we're not ones to be like celebrating. Yeah, you go, the heroic entrepreneur, and get the government off Elon's back. We're not. That's not where we're coming from ideologically. But the left, or what passes for the left or the establishment left, it's so pathetic that you find yourself rooting for Elon Musk, because
I don't. But I hear what you're saying.
The system is so corrupt that unless you had a guy like Elon in play, you'd have nothing. You would have no
there's no Twitter files. Yeah,
I have no Twitter files. Yeah. And it's very similar with Tucker Carlson. Like, I don't like Tucker Carlson, but the kind of shit that these guys are trying to do. I mean, there's like, in the 60s when they would have a pirate radio station offshore so they could broadcast whatever they want without answering to the FCC. But you've got these super wealthy billionaires trying to do pirate radio. It's crazy, and it puts us in as leftists in a weird position of who do you side with?
I will say something, and Kay, I know you want to chime in.
No problem.
And this is what I generally do as a Marxist. I root for capitalist infighting. I want to take advantage of divisions and capital. This is what Marx talks about all the time. We should take advantage of divisions and capital. When you see liberals melting down over Elon Musk, and when you see Elon sticking it to the lib, I agree with Russell in the sense, because I'm like rooting for that conflict. I am rooting for that chaos. So when I see Elon Musk have a bunch of imperialist, capitalist, liberals melting down, that's hilarious, because that capitalist chaos, capitalist infighting that we should always take advantage of. Always take advantage of. That was the point I was trying to make earlier. But go ahead, Kid, if you want to chime in.
So, look, when it comes down to Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk, the way I view it, and what our job is as independent media and commentators and everyone else in this sphere, is that we need to judge people accordingly for their actions. It's easy to fall in the trap of, I don't like him because X, Y, and Z, and I will not critically think or look past anything past my biases. We have to look at everything through a clear lens. But yes, we all have our biases and perspectives and points of view. However, the fact that Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson are able to cause this amount of liberals to critically melt down and get panic attacks because, Tucker Carlson's going on to Twitter. Well, hey, that's Fox News' own fault for getting rid of their own MVP. Yeah. I remember speaking about this 2 weeks ago on Larry Sharp's show in regards towards Fox News letting go of Tucker Carlson. And, we both agreed, Larry and I said that Tucker's going to land on his feet. Obviously, he did. And this could potentially blow up Twitter to become a very powerful social media platform. Yep. On the other hand, too, this is kind of a huge blow to Fox, because they did this before where they fired their MVP. They fired Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck. Both at their one point in time were at the level of Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, he's higher. He's bigger
Fox
than they ever were.
Yeah, exactly. And Tucker, though, the reason why he is a major loss is, unlike those other hosts, and I think I mentioned this before on the last Power Panel, Tucker had a wide range of guests. And unlike the standard Fox News tactic of either shutting off their mics or dismissing them, Tucker let his guests talk, from Jimmy Dore to Tulsi Gabbard, Dr. Cornel West, and everybody else that showed up on that show. He let his guests talk, and he's going to bring that same format to Twitter, and he's going to be uncensored, and he's going to be triggering the AOCs and the Vote Blue No Matter Who people.
It's going to be hilarious.
So be it. It is hilarious, and I say I embrace this. I'm going to grab the popcorn. Yes, I'm impressed with what Elon Musk is doing, and has he done things that I disagree with? Absolutely. That thing with Substack? Oh, what the hell, dude? As well as some of the other policies on Twitter? No, I don't like that, but I do respect what he is trying to do in regards to some aspects of free speech. Is this the environment that we want? No. But if there wasn't somebody like Tucker or Elon, I don't know what this space would look like
exactly
in that alternate reality. So I say good on this. I want to see more of it. And just wait till you see AOC saying we got to censor this person because, oh no, they're the threat to democracy. Even though we don't have one.
Capitalism, is it okay if I just make one more brief point, because I know we're going to move on to the segment. Under capitalism, the only way to get your foot in the door is to accrue enough capital to get you there. It's a horrible situation. It's a horrible dynamic. It's one I wish did not exist, but that is the truth when you reach a certain level. And that's number one. Number two, yes, watching the libs meltdown on social media is very, very satisfying. make no apologies about that. But it does go beyond that. Like, it's not just liberals melting down on social media. It's a lot of institutions in this country, academia, the media, even finance to a large extent now, are dominated by the libs. And Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson, for all their faults, and I would admit there are many, they are disruptors. And this is something that the left very often does not concede about them. They say, oh, well, no, they only serve corporate power. Well, yes and no. They serve certain kinds of corporate power. But they are disruptors to the system. That's why the Pentagon was glad to see Tucker go. There was a whole write-up in that a bunch of DOD officials were celebrating that he was let go. You know, then they say he's hawkish on China. All right. Well, I mean, let's take this one world war at a time here, right? I mean, he's opposed to this one. He's the only voice in media who is. And as such, he did constitute a threat. He was a thorn in their side. That's why the DOD officials came out and said they were glad to see him fired. So it's not just the social media aspect. It's just not the part that we absorb most often because of what we do. But like those kinds of people who are freaking out on social media, they have the institutional power in this country now, and they do not like Elon Musk and they do not like Tucker Carlson, and they don't like them for a reason. It's not just because they embarrass them or rub them the wrong way. They do see them as a certain threat.
Now, I want to make one point because
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to make one more point just based on something you said actually very early on in this stream, and I'm going to show you guys an example because the left, their brain is completely broken. I saw the coverage that you guys did of Surf versus the Lance guy he debated, Tim Pool.
Oh yeah, Tim Pool, yeah.
The point I'm making out of that is that you guys did a great analysis of how he got destroyed because he's not a critical thinker. He just repeats what you think his woke allies want him to say.
I watched that too.
He's not really well trained. So a lot of these people on the left, they turn their critical thinking skills on whether they know it or not. And I'm gonna give you guys an example. Tucker Carlson. Like, I'm gonna show you guys this tweet, and this is from a sock puppet account, but this is liberal mindset because I tweeted this link out. And remember when CJ you said earlier, people get mad at us even just talking about Tucker Carlson and not a super, oh my god, he's a white supremacist, he's a racist, he's the worst thing ever. So I posted this. I said Tucker Carlson goes to Twitter, censorship pushing lists melt down because they are. And he said, fascist Tucker endorsed by revolutionary blackout.
Nowhere in that sentence did you say endorsing.
Now, what I tell you guys on the left is so.
You know, it's man. I love you guys, but it's nice to see you get that shit too, man.
Oh no,
it's not just us.
No, we get that all the time. Yeah,
bro,
I didn't know it.
Fun of liberals gaslighting, and then people who follow me, I got a decent amount of followers. They will call them out, and they get ratioed. Like my liberals get ratioed in my tweets all the time because they will lie about us in the most open way. They're like, "You guys are Tucker apologists." They're like, "I did so many diss videos on this guy." I have respect for my audience because I know they know my opinions on Tucker, so I can give them a well-balanced, nuanced view of the situation.
Right.
We get the pros of Tucker, the cons of Tucker. And they can do that on any other news guest when they talk about Rachel Maddow. You can talk about Rachel Maddow without the intense hatred. You can talk about all these corporate media people without the intense hatred. And this is why I want to get in the mind of the leftists. This expose the people with Tucker Carlson derangement syndrome who vote Democrat. It expose them as unserious because they will say Tucker. The reason why he's uniquely bad, the reason why we must keep our foot on the metal, our foot on the gas on him, is because he's a racist. He's a white supremacist. That's why. That's why the Biden voter said we must have nothing but disdain for Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson legislates Biden legislates Tucker Carlson's ideology. The Democratic Party is funding ICE more.
Right.
They are arming Ukrainian Nazis. They are arming the police more. CJ, remember that study that we did? That study would show that when you ask black people what they care about racism, they care about the material. They care about the policies.
Yeah,
meanwhile, everyone else, white, Latinos, Asians, Muslim, whatever, they care more about virtue signaling. So it don't matter if you're a liberal. It don't matter if you support all these horrifically racist policies, as long as you say the good stuff. As long as you say the good stuff. So Tucker supports all the policies, like in terms of immigration that they do, but he don't say the right stuff, and we don't tolerate that. So the same disdain that they have, I know this is a long point, but the same disdain they have for us, or anyone who don't have an unhinged, we hate Tucker Carlson take. That's how I view people when it comes to Jim Crow Joe. You guys see, like Jim Crow Joe is someone who has power, who legislated racist, hardcore racist policies. But when you guys talk about Joe Biden, I don't see the vitriol that you guys have with Tucker Carlson. Which one is the bigger threat? Tucker Carlson or Joe Biden, Jim Crow Joe?
Well, no, they hate people who they cannot control, and they hate people who they cannot predict. Yeah. So that's why when you look at a guy like Elon Musk, it's not that I like Elon Musk. I certainly don't like Elon Musk. We were the first to jump on him when he did that vindictive shit against Matt Taibbi, where he started throttling the Substack links and all that shit. No, he's an asshole, obviously. Yeah. But he's not the kind of asshole that the liberal establishment wants running this social media platform. They want the old guard type of asshole.
He's not their asshole.
Right. They want Jack Dorsey. They want the neoliberal, technocratic, you can only say this, this, and this. Ooh, what's that? That looks like misinformation. Cancel, right? That's who they want in that spot. They don't want Elon Musk in that spot. Rupert Murdoch, you know, he kept Tucker around for a while because Tucker was not just number one. He was the most successful anchor in the history of that time slot there. But would he rather have an O'Reilly there, just a blowhard who's going to repeat the talking points and put on a good show and mute people's mic? Of course, they'd rather have that, right? So it's not that Carlson and Musk are good guys, but they are not the kind of bad guys that the higher ups want in those spots.
Let me speak to what Nick said, and that is the post-duopoly context. I think that's what you guys we're describing when you're saying people are reacting to how we talk about Tucker, because we are people post-duopoly. We're not. You get what I'm saying? So when somebody who's in a fight and they're seeing somebody else describe it without emotion, is like, what the hell? That's not how it happened. You get what I'm saying? They essentially tell the same story, but with all these other adjectives that gives it more emotion. And that's what we do. We strip all of that away and say, this is the bare bone facts of the matter.
You know, a lot of these just your thing. A lot of these liberals who are in that mindset of just hating Tucker or Elon, you know, the reason why they are acting the way they are is because they want to make sure that black voters, Latino voters, and everyone else, the white liberal, wants to make everyone complacent and be at brunch. They want to make sure that nothing's shaking up their picturesque vision of America, that everyone's friendly and nice, and oh gosh, gee golly, how could there be racism here in this country? Everything's fine, and oh, look at these Republicans, they're the bad guys. The liberal wants to keep everyone asleep. A lot of these vote blue no matter who people don't want to be waking up to the fact that the whole system is falling apart. The whole country is one big lie. The corporations are running the show, and our politicians are okay with signing us off as they kill our democracy, our republic, and our very rights that are being taken away from us. The vote blue no matter who and the liberal politicians want absolute control and silent, obedient consent. They don't want you to think for yourself. They don't want you to be friends with your neighbor. They don't want you to shine a light on the dead body that's in the middle of the field that is the United States of America. That's what's happening right now. And everyone is so triggered by Elon Musk and by Tucker. And yes, the analysis of Due Dissidents, Hardlands Media, Revolutionary Blackout Network, because it upsets their worldview. And now they have to think critically, and they can't do it.
Well, I mean, these folks are what, you know, because the right has kind of become the anti-establishment, they are coining most of the useful phrases to describe a lot of the contours of this phenomena. NPCs, non-player characters. That is a great way to describe it, because when you look at their politics, they don't have politics. They have programming. They have what they're told, and it's very Orwellian. I'm sure everyone here has had that experience where they believe one narrative one day, and literally the media will turn on a dime when it has to, because something has been exposed that is inconvenient to the narrative, and they'll be saying the exact opposite thing the next week. So this is how you get people who are supposedly so anti-racist describing Joe Biden as a decent man. Right, because that's the talking point. That's how they it's kind of creepy. It's very Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like, they're told not only what to think but how to say it. You talk to these libs, they all use that expression. Joe Biden is a decent man. He's a decent man. Yes, he's old. He's a decent man. That's It's what they put in their brain. They do that all the time. Walls closing in. With just a final point before we move on. With Elon and Tucker and all of this, Keaton tweeted over to me Elon's response to it. And I actually got very excited about it. And this is why. For us in this space, they're closing the noose tighter and tighter and tighter, changing algorithms, adpocalypse, getting rid of dislike buttons, which really, I mean, they're getting pressured by their advertisers to do that.
Vanguard really benefit from that one.
I think the Vanguard.
I just watched a video today that we're gonna get to them. Sure. I just watched a video today that claimed, I don't know if it's entirely true, that when you go to a channel now, they made a tweak where you don't see newest videos first. I don't know if that's entirely true, but it was a kind of big channel that made the claim. So that's why I say it. When I saw that, I said, this is only everyone's talking about it in this space. It's only going to get, well, people like us anyway. It's only going to get worse as we get closer to the election. That's part of what firing Tucker was probably about, right? They want to get narrative control ahead of the election, which is trouble for people like us who are not singing from the hymnal. The idea that Musk is going to figure out how to really monetize that and turn it into a competitor to YouTube, that gives us the promise of having a real lifeboat to go to, because Rumble, I mean, it's just not it just doesn't have that audience that Twitter and YouTube do.
Yep.
Absolutely. Let's get to the Trump video reaction. This is going to be a very, very quick, and then we can do some announcements and get to the other stories. People are chomping at the bit.
Just a heads up, I have a story after this one, and that's not gonna be that long.
Yeah, whichever.
That's kind of related, but not really. But it's kind of related. But that just give me a heads up. But go ahead, CJ.
I was actually at the wedding of Donald Trump and Marla Maples. Fantastic ceremony, really amazing. I said, you should run for president someday, Donald. I think you'd be fantastic.
Wow. So we're getting to something similar to that story Keaton just mentioned, but another story that dropped right before we went on was this. Maybe it wasn't immediately right before we went on, but this is another story that dropped. And let's listen to the report, and then we'll all comment, and then move on to the announcement. So here it is. Is this ABC News? Yeah, ABC News right here.
House here for us. And Aaron, what have you learned as far as breaking this down? Liable for what, and then not liable for what else?
David, this jury reached its verdict in a little bit of under 3 hours of deliberations after getting the case earlier today, and they found that E. Jean Carroll was battered and defamed by former President Trump. Interestingly, David, the jury did not find that Carroll proved by a preponderance of evidence that Trump actually raped her. However, they did find a lesser degree of battery, finding that Trump sexually abused E. Jean Carroll in that department store in the mid-1990s. And for that, they awarded $2 million in compensatory damages. More damages were awarded for defamation. They found that Trump did defame Carroll in the form of a social media statement from October of 2022, in which he said that Carroll was not his type, in which he called her claim a hoax and a con job. And for that, the jury awarded another $2 million in compensatory damages, all told. So it's a real win for E. Jean Carroll. She was seated between her two attorneys, Sean Crowley and Roberta Kaplan, clutching their hands, their arms around her, a satisfied smile on her face. And behind her, the defense attorney for former President Trump, who was not here. He did not show up to this trial, but his defense attorney, Joe Tacopina, sat back in his seat in defeat.
So thoughts? I'll let whoever wants to go first go ahead and start.
Sure, I'll shoot first and I'll keep it simple. All right, great. That's still not going to stop Trump from running for president. He's not going to go to jail, and he will be participating still in the 2024 Republican primary, and his polling numbers are still outperforming Biden. Now that all this investment was looked into into Trump, where's the same kind of investment looking into, I don't know, somebody like Joe Biden, or, hey, that guy, remember Governor Cuomo, all those Cuomo sexuals and those 8 women that came forward calling him out for his years of harassment and abuse, or any other Democratic lawmaker? Let's say this guy, Bill Clinton, who knew the world's most prolific abuser, first name Jeffrey, last name was an E, somehow died in a New York prison. I don't know how that happened. Let's put the same investment into holding Democratic lawmakers accountable too. There you go. Trump's still running for president, vote blue no matter who. The walls are still not closing in. He just built another floor just to escape. That's what's going on there.
I mean, that extra $2 million fine for that social media post, it's amazing. For a guy who's dealt with the mafia his whole life, Trump has an incredibly big mouth that gets him into so much trouble. Like, don't these mob guys you bought concrete from for the hotels, don't they ever tell you to keep your fucking mouth shut? Like, the guy has run up so much debt just by talking. I mean, he has the most expensive pair of lips I've ever seen. I mean, the guy just can't shut up and keeps costing himself money. I mean, that's what jumped out to me there. Also, as a New Yorker, I can tell you, the MAGA chuds, they all love to take selfies outside of Trump Tower. Now they're all going to flock to Bergdorf Goodman to take selfies. Let me find that dressing room where he came out, where he attacked Jean Carroll. Take a selfie outside there. Who the hell knows, man? You never know. A world like this, I think you're at a point now with Trump where anything that doesn't actually take him down, meaning anything that doesn't actually land him in prison, makes him stronger. It gives him that Teflon essence, and it allows him to, even though this was a guilty verdict, I suppose, I mean, it was a civil case, but the fact that they did not conclude that he raped her, which was the accusation, I think you're at the point with him where, because you saw in the deposition where he ran down the list of, quote unquote hoaxes that were perpetrated against him, both as a candidate and when he was in office. It's at the point where anything that doesn't actually land him in jail only feeds his narrative that they keep coming at me and coming at me and coming at me. And yet here I am, right? Winner, or in this case, technically a loser with the $5 million fine. But as long as he's still a free man and he's still in the race, he comes out of these things looking like a winner, I think. I mean, I don't like to say that. Obviously, it's a very serious charge. And like Kit said, I would like for Tara Reid to get her day in court. But that's how I think this actually plays.
Yeah, and also this is just the Democrats' karma coming back to haunt them. What they say about Bill Clinton? I would be glad to get out my presidential knee pads for him for keeping abortion legal and safe. Right? They've been excusing sexual predators for decades, and that's why nobody will take you seriously now. They see when it's one of your own, like Joe Biden, the way that Tara Reid couldn't get any help from Time's Up. Right? People see that. They see that hypocrisy. And ultimately, as a result, they just tune this out. The only people who tune it in are your NPCs, your people who are just going to go with whatever you tell them. But the rest of the public, I think most people probably believe that Donald Trump has committed sexual assault, even people who support him. But they're like, well, it's a wash. So did Biden.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And also liberals, because they're idiots, of course, really watered down like Trump outrage. And I'm gonna try and explain what I mean the best I can. How many times did they say that Trump about to go to prison? Now they got all these indictments that are 100% political. So when something like this that is legit, as far as I can see, right, that should manufacture outrage, people are like, oh, just another Trump scandal they manufactured, because they did it so many times. Imagine they was just chill and they critique Trump's policies that they can't because they mostly agree, right? So imagine they were chill, and then this happened, and it was like the first time they was like, yeah, we got to get through the legal system. I think it would hit more. It would hit way harder, but we've seen so many of these pathetic attempts by liberals to weaponize the Justice Department, even though there are people who do the same exact thing. And even though Trump was called guilty, and I have no reason not to believe this woman, right? everyone sees political because your president is a rapist. Like, so if you're only charging one side, everyone's gonna see what you're doing, and that will everyone see through except Democrats. They're the only people that pretend that people don't see the political aspects of these things.
All right, I'm going to be very careful how I say this because I don't want to hurt your channel. So I saw a video that put together clips of Joe Biden's history in public with very, very, very young ladies, and it's pretty damning. That's all I'm going to say. I don't feel like you could watch that montage and come out of it saying, no, there's nothing going on there. There's nothing going on there. That's totally normal. That's totally normal to behave that way with a child. Yeah. Okay. I don't want to get you in trouble. I want to
we understand.
I forget the tweet, but somebody screenshot it. I don't know if it's still around or up there or not, but it could have been from a sock puppet account or not. But some liberal who was voting for Biden or was supporting Biden during the 2020 election said that they would rather have Biden hurt their child than.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, that's what happened. Wow. The thing is, you have a lot of vote. Now, again, that could have been a sock puppet account. That could have been some sort of bot. Or it really could have been, shockingly, a liberal. Because when you hear what some of these liberals do...
Yeah, it doesn't sound too far off.
And just the amount of mental gymnastics, vote blue no matter who, will do to have a Democrat in office or have a Democratic neoliberal majority, they will twist their own morals to make themselves superior.
You remember that woman, that white woman that was like, I don't even care if Biden raped her. He could rape me for all that matter. I'm still voting for him. She said that. Even normie feminists was like, no, even Democrat liberals like, nigga, you making it look way too fucking ridiculous. Don't say shit like that out loud.
Never trust the vote blue no matter who liberal Democrats because they want you to be complacent.
So, but look, on another level, I think this is hurting DeSantis a bit, and I'm just sort of speculating here, but let's not forget, it's very clear based on Biden's campaign video, the one that he put out, he wants to run against Trump. It's very, very obvious that's who he wants to run against. And the way DeSantis has been boosting his numbers is by sort of clout chasing in the form of chasing media, right? He'll inject himself into a story that represents some national media trend. All this focus on Trump is keeping DeSantis from doing that. That's why his polling has sort of flatlined. And so it's look, this is perhaps a bit conspiratorial, as I'm prone to get from time to time. This is speculation on my part. I'm just kind of spitballing here. It could be that it could be that this is another Pied Piper move, that they're putting all this Trump stuff into the media in order to boost him, to get him that nomination because he's their target. He's who they clearly want to run against.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Let's have.
Again, that's just a theory. I'm just throwing it out. I just kind of thought of that a few minutes ago. But
polls are meaningless on a candidate who hasn't announced yet. You know, I mean, I think once DeSantis announces, then you're going to start to get a real picture. Yeah. I think he's going to be much more formidable against Trump than people are thinking because there's only Trump out there right now. There's only Trump, right? I mean, yeah, he's fucking with Disney and all that, but he's not an announced candidate for president at the moment.
Let's go around and get everybody's vote. You got DeSantis or Trump being the nominee?
Trump. I was literally just about to say, I hope you're right, Russell. Not only because it will be way more hilarious to see a primary between DeSantis and Trump. Like, it would not be hilarious at all to see just Trump wash them, right? It'll be way more funny to see the fucking primary. And also, I hope that's the case because, as I said last time, in front of thousands of people on the Jimmy Dore show, I said I think Ron DeSantis was going to get the nomination. So, for my prediction's sake, I hope that's correct.
Man, me and you are going to take a victory lap. If DeSantis wins, we're going to have Bud Lights on the air and everything.
I got Trump.
We're talking about taking bets now.
I had DeSantis before.
No,
not bets for money. But what I mean by bets is like we're talking about who we want to win the nomination or who we think is going to.
No, we're predicting or
who predicting.
With the terrain, who do you think is going to win the nomination at this point?
All right, well, I'm the last vote, right? Because CJ and Kit both got Trump, Russell and
I'd
Nick
say
both
Trump,
got
DeSantis.
I mean, Trump.
Yeah, you know, look, what Nick said in our last show.
Me on DeSantis, Nick?
What Nick said in our last show, I thought stuck with me, which is that electoral politics is very, very difficult to predict. And so it is very difficult to predict at this point because we're so far out. Oh man, I was coming to your side, Russell, but I'm starting to think it's going to be Trump again. I'm just starting to think that because they can't knock him off the board. They just can't knock him out. Like no matter what they do, they can't knock him out.
You can't take him out. You're taking his road to the presidency.
They arrest him. They drag him into court. They bring a rape trial where they said, "Yeah, you sexually abused this woman." You just can't take him off the board. Yeah.
Trump makes great TV. It doesn't mean that in the end, the Republican coalition, whatever that ends up being and what it has been historically, is not going to go for the guy who can establish a legacy, who's going to be there for 2 terms, who's a young guy who's proven that he can actually institute the policies they want instead of just virtue signaling about them.
You're 100% right. There's a completely rational argument for why DeSantis is the better choice for them and why they might very well make that choice. Like I've been kind of 50-50 this whole time. Immediately after the midterms, I was leaning DeSantis. I'm still 50-50, so don't take it too personally, Russell. But right now, my gut just kind of says Trump. But it's gut. It's 51-49 in my book. Like it's really a toss-up in my view. Yeah, I'm not confident either way.
I picked DeSantis. I don't. That was like over a year ago. That was a long time ago. I remember I said on Jimmy's show, I was like, I think DeSantis is gonna win, but a lot of changes. That's why I was like, man, a lot of changes. Now,
well, we've hedged our bets pretty well. RBN, you got one DeSantis, one Trump. You're right either way. We got one DeSantis, one Trump.
I got Nick. Is Nick still DeSantis though?
So I'm all in for.
If I'm gonna be honest, I was on the. I thought DeSantis would win last year, but now I don't think that is, and I'll tell you why. First, I did not predict that Trump and his people are going to be pushing like their talking points on Ukraine like the way they are.
Yeah,
and I didn't see that being a difference between him and DeSantis. And then DeSantis tried to do what Trump did. We're like, man, I gotta flank him on this. I gotta make sure I'm not bad on this issue. But you can tell he flipped. You can tell he's not passionate about the issue. So he spoke out against Ukraine, got crucified by the right, by Marco Rubio, many people, and then he backed down and he came out like, well, actually, I meant Putin's a thug. And I said, so when I see that weakness, bro, Trump is gonna eat that shit alive, bro. Like that weakness that he has, Trump didn't have that shame where if he said that shit about Ukraine, if he was a nominee back in the day, and then Marco Rubio come out and criticize him for it, Trump would have been like, fuck you, Marco, little Marco, what the fuck you think you talking about? Meanwhile, DeSantis ran away, and that shows that, man, this dude's in over his head. The Ukraine thing, Trump is going to beat his ass on. And Ron DeSantis can't out-Trump Trump. And that's why I changed my opinion on. We see. Like, I think those factors changed a lot. But who knows? Who knows?
There were some debate prep tapes of DeSantis that leaked recently, though. I think it was from 2018. And what you saw was a guy who is very, very calculating about every move, whereas Trump is not. DeSantis can run a war room, whereas Trump is just this agent of chaos. Now, the question is Trump big enough to overcome that? Because in politics, size matters, right? Can he just through brute force? Yeah. Can he overcome that through sheer presence? Possible. I'm really 50-50. Like I said, I mean, I gave you an answer. That's what my gut tells me right now. Tomorrow, I could be back on the other way. That's what
I've always thought Trump has never had a real opponent. Not really.
It comes down to the dollars, though. It always comes down to the dollars, especially with somebody like Trump. Because again, who can the Republican politicians or those new up and comers who are sycophants for Trump, especially the Freedom Caucus, who are all in for Trump? Who's good for the dollars and the fundraising? Trump. Who's good for the views for corporate media? Trump. I mean, corporate media needs Trump like they need to do a line. That's the truth.
Who's the biggest funder in the GOP? Nick said is MTG, and who does she back?
That was, and I got that from like a year and a half ago. So I don't know what the current top is now.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like the Freedom Caucus backs Trump, so there's a lot of reasons. But fellas, we have to move on so we can get to.
Yeah, I have a segment, CJ. I have a segment.
Topics. Yes, let me do the announcements, and we'll get to your segment. So, everybody watching, we got over 400 people. Make sure you hit that like button. hit that like button, please, to get us to about 350 likes. That's 125 more people hitting that like button. Here's our Substack. So you get notifications when the next time we do this very show, the Post-Duopoly show. And let us know where you're watching right now. We'll toss some of those up. Let us know what state, what country you're in, time zone, whatever you feel comfortable with sharing. The other thing, we're running a fundraiser for our employees. So if you have the ability to contribute, here is the flyer, RBN Labor and Fundraiser. So if you like these flyers that she makes, and that's Erin, and all of these flyers that she makes are just some great flyers that she comes up with. Scrolling down below, you'll see our GoFundMe account, or if you rather Venmo, that's also down there. So if you're able to contribute, please do. And I'm going to pass it to Nick now for.
So this story is related, kind of, but not really. You can call this part 2 of the segment that we did on Nick and CJ of liberals melting the fuck down after they see the Trump poll numbers. And now this is, once again, I said this is semi-related because I'm gonna show you guys, and we're not gonna get to the whole segment here. I'm gonna show you the very beginning because I saw the very beginning of this clip and I laughed so fucking hard and I didn't finish the rest because you see pure fucking cope out of Morning Joe here. So I'm gonna play it because look at the title. Why do evangelicals continue to stand behind Trump? Now this is them melting the fuck down over these poll numbers, and they are in denial the same way that liberals are they are the biggest conspiracy theorists in politics. They put Russiagate, they said Russia bombed their own Nord Stream pipeline, and now they are saying ABC polls, which once again, I don't give a fuck about polls, but this is the poll that they lifted up and they trusted, and they said this is the official poll, we should not question these. Now they're saying, man, I think something up with these polls, man. I think these polls are rigged. I'm gonna show you guys. I can't spoil it, but I'm gonna show you guys.
Keep all these straight. This is the separate case about Stormy Daniels and the trouble that Donald Trump may be in there, to go along with the charges, the civil case of alleged rape with E. Jean Carroll.
And what do we get against this back?
So this is
this
reacting to the
Donnie douche.
Oh boy, here we go.
Oh my god,
this guy and about to have a real ass meltdown live TV. Listen to this.
Here we
Donald
go.
Trump beating Joe Biden by 7 points, and you go, what's wrong with people? It's not what's wrong with Donald Trump. It's what's wrong with us. What's wrong with this country? Here's a guy.
Oh, he looks so sad.
Hang on, but
This fucking guy, I haven't watched
Donnie
MSNBC in so long. This fucking guy looks like he's aged about 20 years in the last 5 years. Like, I remember Donnie Deutsch used to look like a dapper. I mean, he's a son of a rich. He inherited his father's marketing agency, whatever it is. He's like a big city playboy type. You know, he always looked kind of. Now he's got the stubble. He's got the glasses. I don't know if they come with like a defrost button on those eyeglasses. You can't even see his face through the glasses. I don't know how he sees out of those. He just looks like a total wreck, which goes with what he's saying.
Beware of people who act like they're holier than thou, because who knows what kind of skeletons are in this Jagoff's.
I can tell you one, if anybody has forgotten. He said he would vote for Trump if Bernie was the nominee.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, he did.
And then Joe talked him down live on the air because he was like, brother, I don't want this to go viral. Yeah, he talked him down. No. And then he followed the lead. It was so obvious they were having a moment like, yo, you can't say that shit. He was like, no, you're right. I didn't mean it. Yeah. I was just, talking.
I think the skeletons that Kit was talking about were more like pussy grabbing skeletons, right? Like,
there you go. Yeah, true.
I think that's what you were getting more at. Yeah.
But
yes, I'd vote for Trump. Yes, I remember that quote very well.
Yeah. So this is the stream of the lyrics because after weeks and months, because you guys know I've been critically analyzing Morning Joe. After months of Morning Joe saying, Trump can't win. Republicans suck. Man, Biden, there's no way Trump's gonna lose. No way Trump's gonna win. This has been the message of Morning Joe. I'm telling you guys, this guy know you guys don't watch. Every show, at least one segment, where they're like, man, Trump, they're making so many missteps. And then this poll come out, and now they're like, "Oh my God, what is wrong with you?" Anyway, let's play it. We just got started.
Yeah, sure.
This is not long. I only playing like the beginning part of this clip. Let's listen to this full meltdown. It's so hilarious.
Oh, what?
I gotta play from the beginning. Let's play from the beginning.
It's the civil. It's hard to keep all these straight. This is the separate case about Stormy Daniels and the trouble that Donald Trump may be in there, to go along with the charges, the civil case of alleged rape with E. Jean Carroll.
And what do we get against this backdrop? Donald Trump beating Joe Biden by 7 points. And you go, what's wrong with people? It's not what's wrong with Donald Trump. It's what's wrong with us. What's wrong with this country? Here's a guy. He's being charged for rape. And we're going to see 3 and 4 indictments. We see 2 impeachments. We led an insurrection. And
God damn it! Not January 6th again. God damn it!
You want to chime in real quick?
No, everyone keeps on bringing goddamn January 6th as though it's the end of democracy, and oh no, that was it, and we'd be under occupation of the right wing. These are liberal fantasies. They want to be professional victims and live in a fantasy where they're fighting against fascists. When we all know all these vote blue no matter who people and all these quote unquote resistance fighters don't have a single soul or passion to really fight. They're complicit with what the Democrats have done, like Obama and Bill Clinton. Everyone's making January 6th like this end-all, be-all. Guess what? We woke up the next day, January 7th, Biden was president of the United States. Everyone stop pissing your goddamn pants off. God damn it. January 6th, January 6th. All right. What about all the other... Never mind.
They had... And this guy like... Trump is convicted of rape. How could people possibly vote for a rapist for president as we got Joe Biden in the White House right now? So let's listen a little bit more.
I mean, what out of the last 3 Democratic presidents, 2 were rapists. You know, I'll give Obama that. Exactly. I don't think he was a rapist, in spite of his other faults. He may have raped the country, but not a woman. But Bill Clinton, Joe Biden. So this is, this is how why I don't understand why people keep coming back to these news sources. They always do this to their viewers. Like, oh no, we got this, Trump. And then they're always left. Oh yeah. Oh shit. I can't believe this. And then they just put it on the MAGA, right? On the deplorables. Like, how do you keep coming back for that? It's just this constant Lucy and the football act.
So all they have is a certain sort of indignation, right?
Right.
That's all they have is
but they're always wrong. Everything they tell their people. Look, man, I always say if I had grown up in the Bronx, I probably would have been a baseball fan. But I grew up a mile from Shea Stadium, where Mets were the local team. And by the time I was 8 years old, I figured something out. You're always going to be disappointed if you stay invested in baseball. I was done. I never paid any attention to baseball again. How do you keep coming back for them to tell you, oh, no, we're going to win. And then it turns out to all be bullshit. Like, I just don't understand how people keep coming back for that.
Yeah, so this is not a long segment, so let's listen to what Mr. No Lips had to say here.
Rape. And we're going to see 3 and 4 indictments. We see 2 impeachments. We led an insurrection. And yet Republicans follow like lemmings off of a cliff. And you have to start to say, and I don't want to attach this back to the gun segment.
And Democrats don't?
Is what's wrong with people?
What's wrong with people?
This man, they still follow this charlatan. They still follow this animal. You start to go. You throw up your hands and go. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, and the people who are. Let me just say again, the evangelical conservatives who are supporting the white evangelicals.
Now, I mostly want to show you guys that meltdown in particular. I want to show you guys something else because now this is the conspiracy theories, and we covered one of these yesterday when you had. I forgot exactly. Was it Morning Joe CJ? I forgot what corporate show it was. I think it was Morning Joe because they were like, "How is it possible?"
That was one of them. Yeah,
it was like, "How is it possible that 55% of Americans want Trump prosecuted, but he's winning in the polls?"
Oh, that was this week with George Stephanopoulos. That was Donna Brazile.
The dumbest people in politics, man. So, as I explained, 55% of people wanting Trump to go to prison does not mean that Biden's going to get more votes than him. Do you guys understand? This is the very basic point. that liberal media are forgetting about. And now they gaslighting and lying people about it. So look at this headline. This is from Time. What the new poll favoring Trump got wrong and what the pundits missed. So now here's the liberal journalists putting their conspiracy theory hats on, and they're attacking polls, the same thing they accused Trump of doing. And, oh my, you guys are denying the polls. When the polls showed Biden and Hillary was up, they said these fake polls, and they attacked Trump supporters for doing that. Meanwhile, do you guys know the argument that they were doing?
They only polled landlines in trailer parks. That was it. That was the sample. Is that it?
God.
PJ, I'm glad you actually remember the guy's name. I didn't when I first read this article, but they actually quote that motherfucker in this article. PJ.
Oh, no.
Well, let me read the first 2 paragraphs real quick. I actually did not know that till you mentioned this, which makes this story way more hilarious. So this is written in Time magazine. No one was more suspicious of the widely showcased newest ABC Washington Post poll than ABC anchor George Stephanopoulos, who questioned its accuracy live on air on his Sunday, May 7th release. Stephanopoulos was suspicious given the inconsistencies in the surveys, which both purported to overwhelmingly condemn Trump's likely illegal conduct, supposedly showing Trump leading Biden in a prospective 2024 presidential matchup. So what they're saying is, he said Stephanopoulos was right to be suspicious of the ABC's co-sponsored survey, as this poll was apparently designed for media drama. Media drama.
Oh my God.
George Stephanopoulos, this filthy rat, by the way, who none of these outlets disclose nearly as often as they should, was a Bill Clinton operative in 1992. He worked alongside James Carville on the Bill Clinton campaign. There was a whole documentary made about them called The War Room. There is not a doubt in my mind, in fact, I'm pretty sure this is on the record, that Stephanopoulos sat in multiple
was press
meetings.
Secretary, wasn't it?
Multiple. I don't know if he was press secretary, but I know he worked very high up on the campaign. There's no doubt he sat in multiple meetings where those Clinton operatives thought, what are we going to do about all these women coming forward and credibly accusing Bill Clinton of sexual violence against them, be it harassment, assault, or in some cases, yes, full-on rape. No doubt. This little dwarf sat in meetings like that. And then he comes up there and is part of this outrage machine about Donald Trump, now with the rape story in the news. Like, this is the world these people live in, is a world in which this shit just gets completely memory hold or ignored or excused, but then they have nothing but righteous indignation about Trump and the Republicans and what's wrong with people with the gun violence. And like, it's just a complete fake world, and it's a world with no stakes. The MSNBC audience doesn't have anything at stake. They're comfortable. And so all that's at stake is, why are people flocking towards this TV villain when we have a TV hero in Joe Biden? Why? I don't get it. What's wrong with them?
This is what's scary to them. This is what's scary to them is that let's say everything they say about Trump is true, and people are still saying Joe Biden is worse. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're still saying Joe Biden is still worse now, because maybe the poll is indicating they're not believing a lot of the stuff that's happening to him. But let's just say everybody's saying, let's just say they believe it. So is it possible that the lesser of two evils, even with your narrative, corporate media, that Joe Biden is still the worst?
It's still
out of the two.
Right.
That's what's scary for them. Yeah.
They're so sad because they're like, what's wrong with people? How's our propaganda not working?
Well, the thing is, look, let's look at that great video where Jimmy Dore, when he was got his own channel finally, and he had that intro video where he's explaining to Cenk and everybody else. You think people are voting for Donald Trump because their lives are great? I mean, if people knew the crimes that Bill Clinton or Obama really did, everyone would be screaming bloody murder. Trump, as like any other sycophant, promised the people that he was going to make their lives better. He came up right after the Obama years. Nothing changed under Barack Obama. We went from, in fact, well, actually things got worse. Went from 2 wars to 7. Got rid of habeas corpus. The people who caused the economic collapse are still dancing around and drinking, living their best lives. So all in all, it comes as no surprise that Trump is doing better in the polls. What I could take away from that Time article is this. I'm waiting for the day where, similar to Vice and BuzzFeed, Time has to file bankruptcy because no one is buying or consuming their BS garbage anymore, because this is where corporate media is at. It is a dying brand. People are trying to make excuses. You have these corporate journalists who are writing these BS articles, well know that they are lying and trying to come up with something to give an excuse to continue on the neoliberal establishment narrative. But the thing is, they can't. What I call articles like that, Nick, CJ, and everyone else that's watching, I call that the rent was due and they have to write it so they get their little paycheck and pay off their expensive New York apartment.
Well, that's the most fundamental thing, is that under Joe Biden, the country is, I'm sorry, it's a flaming pile of shit. Like,
Right.
it sucks. Like,
Right.
the country sucks.
In the end,
so that's why,
kids
ultimately,
are still in
you shouldn't
cages.
be too surprised. Right.
Yeah, in the end, what is surprising about it? Like, since
Right.
Joe Biden has been president, inflation's been off the hook. You have supply chain problems. You have unreliable airlines again. This is coming up again now. And again, Buttigieg is completely out to lunch.
World War
Like,
III.
what World War III? Like, why would people? It would be amazing if they did want to reelect Joe Biden. Like, what? That's why I believe your next president is going to be a Republican. It's just a question of which one. And I will point out, in that same poll, DeSantis led Biden by the same amount.
Yeah,
they
same
both
amount.
led Biden by 7 points.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Now, actually,
Yeah, either one of them will win, Nick. Either one of them. Go ahead. You had another receipt.
I have one. I have a few.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to step on
the
that.
Reason why I want to share this right now is because this is related to the rape story that we just covered. And in the light of Trump being charged, liberals have an excuse to call for canceling the CNN town hall with him. Now, I want to give you guys takes on this because this shows how cowardly the Democratic Party is. Imagine being afraid of Trump and giving camera time to Trump, someone who I view as a massive idiot. Like, just give him a camera and you should be able to beat this guy. But they are afraid of debating him, just like AOC afraid of debating Marjorie Taylor Greene. Why are you guys so afraid of these people? So look at it.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. Nick.
Ken, you got anything you want to add real quick?
No. Sorry, you had an exhibit. I want to step on it.
So I have noticed that it wasn't worth doing a segment on, but I have noticed in the last few days since Trump CNN town hall, which I'm very excited to watch because it's gonna be a shit show.
Absolutely.
It's on now, isn't it?
Oh
no, that's on tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
The Trump town hall's tomorrow. It's not today.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh,
I believe it's tomorrow. That's why I saw a lot of people calling for CNN to cancel this. Now, I'm going to show you guys Don Winslow. Dear CNN, cancel that town hall with Trump today. Don't wait. Now, they were going to try and pretend this is because the rape trial, but they've been calling for this for a while because when Trump was first announced for his town hall, they was like, oh my God, CNN, how can you dare you platform Donald Trump? How dare you platform Donald Trump? You mean the guy who is the leading presidential candidate according to the polls, who leads the incumbent? Liberals are calling for shutting this conversation down. Not just Don Winslow. I'll just have a few saved. Twitter was littered with this shit because it was 100% coordinated because they all came out like within the same hour. I saw it live as it was happening. And now this is that black Afro guy that I always make fun of. He's the black boy that
Yeah.
Mystique, what's his name? Mystique or something like that?
Mistel, I think. Mistal.
Ellie Mistal.
Yeah.
Which, I would love to debate this guy one day. This dude is one of the dumbest fake intellectuals you will ever see. He has an afro. He can speak intelligence, and he just repeats Democratic Party talking points. So this is this guy, the Afro guy. He says CNN is going to cancel the town hall instead of platforming the sexual predator, right? Right? So this is them calling for a cancellation. Here's another one, 50 Shades Away. CNN is literally holding a town hall with a sexual predator tomorrow, right? Cancel your cable subscriptions.
Well,
they'll never do that.
Oh, what a bunch of nutless
CNN is
ones.
only one small part of people's cable package. But this is the only reason that, CNN, I mean, what he's talking about. The only reason CNN, MSNBC, even Fox, they're all money-losing enterprises on an advertising basis. They have a deal where they have to be bundled with the cable package. That's how they actually make their money.
Yeah.
If you get rid of that, because we're always like, oh my God, nobody watches it. They have YouTubers get better ratings than CNN. How are they paying for all this? That's how.
Exactly.
It's an artificial marketplace.
So looking at CNN or people telling CNN to get rid of Trump, it's sort of like telling someone who's addicted to alcohol or drugs or sex or gambling to get off their fix. No, CNN needs those views from Donald Trump because he's very good for business. Corporate media's views across the board have been falling drastically. The only reason why they're relevant is because they managed to weasel their way into cable packages, as was explained before. Number two, they bullied their way into big tech, so the algorithm favors them. Otherwise, all in all, corporate media is irrelevant, but they need those views because Trump is good for business. So at the end of the day, all these people saying, oh no, CNN is going to have this horrible man who assaults women. They've done it before. They've interviewed politicians and other people who are far worse than Donald Trump. Exactly. I get it that Donald Trump triggers people, but there are people worse than that man. Okay. Trump, he's just the beginning. The other people who are out there who have their skeletons hiding in their closet, who have that neoliberal mask on, both conservative or Democrat, they will make your skin crawl because we got some real vile scumbags out there. Trump, I'll give him this. He's honest. We at least know he's a scumbag. We at least know he's a pile of crap, but at least we know and he's up front. But the frightening fact is that there are people worse than Donald Trump, and CNN's not going to get rid of him because he's good for their business model, because CNN is not journalism. It's a corporate media outlet that's owned by institutions that are based on profit money, not informing the goddamn people. So vote blue no matter who. We'll see you tomorrow at Wednesday on CNN when they'll have the highest view rating ever.
But that's what makes them so afraid of Trump. To what Nick was asking, like you say, okay, well, yeah, Trump is this idiot. Why are they so afraid of him? I think one of the reasons why establishment politicians, establishment media outlets do fear him so much is because partly of what Kit was just sort of getting at there, which is Trump is a guy who says what he wants, right? That's not to say he's honest, right? But it's to say he says what he wants. He is emotionally honest in that way, right? He communicates what he wants to say. Whereas because politics is so corrupt, because so many of these politicians, all of the politicians, work for people and institutions and forces that they cannot reveal to the public, they are always playing hide the ball with how they actually think. Whereas Trump doesn't do that. And that hamstrings all of these other people who have to go up against him, be it in a debate stage or in a race, because they have to keep in their back pocket what they actually feel about what's going on, what they're actually plan on doing once they get in office. Whereas Trump does not do that. Trump communicates with people. And that's, by the way, partly why he's such a demagogue, is because part of that willingness to just say what you feel means you are actually, yes, appealing to people's basest instincts and prejudices and fears. But that's all of a piece. It's all a guy communicating exactly what he wants to people who want to hear exactly what he's saying. No other politician can talk that way. You think, I mean, Biden can't talk at all, but Obama can't go up there and say what he feels because Obama's selling hope and change. Meanwhile, he's got the list in his back pocket of cabinet members he's going to pitch to the banks. What was it? Citigroup? Yeah, that was the bank.
Goldman Sachs,
right?
Citigroup,
right.
all that.
So, right. So he has to play that double game, whereas Trump just doesn't. Trump just shoots from the hip. He goes out and says it, and that is threatening to people who feel like that they cannot communicate as openly.
Mm-hmm. That is spot on. Go ahead.
CNN, they're in the middle of this whole attempt to shift their positioning with the viewership. After they whacked Jeff Zucker, they went on a firing spree. They got rid of Stelter. They just got rid of Don Lemon. They're trying to find their way to a lane that's not already taken by MSNBC and Fox. I don't know that lane really exists in large numbers anymore.
Well, we actually got the answer to it. See, CNN, unlike the other jagoffs in corporate media, really thought that big tech was actually doing them a favor, and that they were getting the big views because everyone was following them on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of that. And CNN and all the people there actually got big-headed enough to think that people liked them and decided to do their own streaming service. A little thing called CNN Plus. $250 million lost 1 month, and then it went under. That's the canary in the coal mine. CNN is a dying brand, and hopefully it will go very soon, similar like Vice and BuzzFeed, and the sooner the better, because
they want Trump to win.
Yeah, they need him to win. They need him to win to be relevant, Nick. That's the only thing CNN needs. They need him to win. They need him on their show, because that's the only way they're going to survive. Because if Trump loses, oh no, what happens to CNN? People are stopped tuning in, and they're not going to be paying attention. So we know that CNN's going under. They're not going to find their lane. We know that they're irrelevant. They're going to die. And I say we have a celebration when that day happens, when they finally go under, belly up, because it's going to be one hell of a party.
Now, I want to get to the real reason why they're doing this. What I think is the real reason. You have the famous phrase, democracy dies in darkness, and that's exactly what they want to happen. So how many press conferences that Joe Biden did this year, by the way?
Zero. None, right? None.
So we're not having any press conferences.
The sycophants and the press corps actually bitched about it. It takes a lot to get those people to bitch.
So no press conferences, no town halls. So how are we going to make the choice as an educated populace? They like, no, we make the choice for you. We don't want you to hear the candidates. We tell you who to vote for. And this is the key part why they banned Trump. Now I'm going to get you guys thoughts on this. So you would think that right after Trump got charged with rape or sexual assault, it wasn't rape, it was sexual assault and battery, to be clear.
Well, that's what they found him guilty on. She alleged rape.
Yeah, they found him guilty on sexual assault.
Yeah. Sexual abuse,
She alleged rape. You would think now would be the time they want him to have a town hall, right? You would think now you got him in trouble. Right after this court case, you want him to sit down and explain what the fuck happened, right?
Right.
They don't want to do that because you know what Trump was going to do? Oh, what about Joe Biden and Tara Reid?
He absolutely will do that.
Crazy shit that'll get the attention off of the verdict.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Why you guys think? I want you guys to tell me. I know I'm talking a lot of journalists, but why you guys think? Oh, I had the Midas touch. I was looking. Actually, I'm gonna show you the tab. I'll let you type in CNN town hall. Holy shit, dude! Because I just saw so many tweets. You have all these liberals melting down. I read that one before. That Ellie Missar read that one. This Mehdi Hassan. Bitching about it. Midas touch. Will CNN continue to host their town hall with a sexual abuser this Wednesday? And if I'm bitching about some more, Alice Whitman, is CNN still going to do a town hall with a sexual predator? Guys, they don't give a fuck about that. They are afraid that Trump is going to go out there and say, oh, you think I'm the only one accused? What about Bill Clinton? What about Joe Biden? They don't want their audience to hear Joe Biden and Tara Reid. And you know Trump is going to do that because he mastered whataboutism. And Trump he's going to deflect to every single Democratic Party mishap, which they don't want to be aired. It's not about airing Trump. It's about not airing his defense. That's what this is about.
Yeah, I think it's a lack of confidence that they're going to be able to take him down, that they're going to be able to take him out. They're not confident in that. You know, they are waiting for the country to simply see things their way. Like, they're out of arguments. They're out of moves. Legislatively, Biden's presidency is over, right? Because he does not have the House anymore. Not that there was anything great happening when the Democrats had the House. But, like, they don't have anything else. All they can do is what Donnie Deutsch did in that MSNBC clip, which is, what is wrong with people? When are they just gonna wake up and see what we want? And it's not going to come. Now, does that mean they're going to lose? I mean, if that poll is accurate, they're going to lose, right? If they're losing popular vote 7 points, they'll lose. But, you know, we're still a year and a half out, so a lot can change between now and then. But the fundamental question, the fundamental truth remains the same. It remained the same even in 2018 when the Democrats won the House back, in 2020 when they won the Oval back. Liberalism does not have an answer to Trumpism.
Yeah,
it just does not. It never has. And until they find an answer, they're going to be ranting the same exact way on MSNBC because nothing's going to move. Nothing's going to move until someone has an answer for this. And the people in power do not have an answer for this. It's very obvious they don't. Look at the immigration thing. I noticed you put that up on the screen earlier. Now the New York Times is sort of conceding, oh man, Biden he's continuing all these Trump policies. That was the biggest grievance you had against Trump from day one, literally from his first speech as a candidate in 2015, was that they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. And now, almost 3 years into Biden's presidency, the New York Times is throwing their hands up. Man, I guess Biden's just like Trump on this issue. Nothing's going to move. Exactly. Nothing can move. Because there is no left liberal response to the problems that the country is facing, immigration being one.
Well, AOC can't do a protest, so maybe that's what's changed. She can't protest in front of the facilities anymore.
Yes, you're correct. You're correct. In that sense, the optics have changed. But the optics have only changed to the people who are paying attention, which is the people who watch programs like ours and who absorb this sort of alternative media, which unfortunately is still a very tiny slice of the overall population and an even tinier slice of the voting population.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna answer your question, Keaton, and CJ, I'll pass to you after this because I'm done after this last video. This is a very short video of my favorite cringe Gen Z kids, and this is
those kids.
This is their answer to Donald Trump. You're like, what is their answer to Donald Trump? This fucking guy. And now I'm gonna show you this video, and this is only 30 seconds. That's why I squeezed this in. I'll pass it to you after this, CJ. But this is their answer. They think they're gonna have these cringy ass social media influencers, and they're gonna convince people to vote for the Democratic Party. And I say this video is why Biden is losing in the polls. Listen to this shit.
Look who's back. Hey, did you know that in the midterms, depending on the state, between 60 and 70% of Gen Z voters voted for a Democrat? And look, whether you're further left than me, maybe you're less establishment than me, maybe you're...
What did you say?
The hell are you talking about?
You guys hear that?
Boy, if you don't shut up and get a haircut, I know I'm talking because I got long hair, but seriously, man.
I can't attack him on that either, unfortunately. I'm in
you guys hear
desperate
that
need of one
part?
myself.
And for one, we broke this down before. You guys see this page? Who fucking tested this? Who polled this? Who did I don't know why they decided that this super upbeat, cringy way of speaking is gonna reach people. Everyone I see is rolling their eyes at this fucking guy. Who the fuck talks like this? In a super rush way. We gotta get some information out right now. This is extremely important. We need it right now. Like, who the fuck does this work on?
It's not designed to work on people. This is designed to give him and his parents a check, right? People like this donate to the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, in return, hook them up with a gig. Right? Nice $200,000 to whatever it is, pallet management that reps this kid. That's what it's about. It's just gig flow, right? It's you scratch my back, I scratch yours. This represents the day-to-day functionality of the Democratic Party. It is not to win elections or to persuade people. It is to hook up donors, large and small, with gigs like this. It's a business. Of course, this guy's not persuading anybody. This is beyond a joke. I mean, we've just seen 11 seconds. I'm curious to see the rest. But that's not what it's intended to do.
This seems like what the Biden team's idea of a young Democratic voter would be.
Yes.
Very much like Politics Girl is their idea of what their typical suburban female voter is.
Right.
Focus group.
I guarantee that young guy, when he's in the voting booth, he's not voting for Joe Biden. He's taking the money and saying, but he's like, when he's in the booth, he's like, climate change, I can't do Joe Biden right now. You know what I mean? Like, he's in the booth changing his mind.
No, what he is, he's probably one of those.
We only have let's finish the video now because we only got this is only 30-second video. You guys haven't seen the whole thing.
I haven't seen any of this. No.
I'm gonna play for the beginning, and I want you guys to pay attention to how he communicate. And the word I was looking for was focus group. Who did they focus group this shit on? Like this is something they script out, because if you watch all his videos, not just his, all of these Gen Z kids, they got the same cadence, the same sense of urgency, and listen to what he admits. And CJ, we talk about how they are actually very bad propagandists, with Morning Joe being the best, Tucker Carlson being the best, but these people are very bad. I think the politics girl, I think she's good. I think she's good at what she does, like in terms of propaganda.
Oh yeah, she reps that brand, of course.
Yeah,
She's
this guy is
excellent
horrible.
brand ambassador. Yeah,
he's horrible. He's a horrible propagandist because he says something he should never fucking say. I'm gonna play it again. I'm gonna see if you guys catch it.
Okay.
Look who's back. Hey, did you know that in the midterms, depending on the state, between 60 and 70% of Gen Z voters voted for a Democrat? And look, whether you're further left than me, maybe you're less establishment than me.
Maybe you left establishment than me? Who the fuck says that other than the establishment shell?
Right.
He makes the mistake that good politics girl and Morning Joe would never fucking make. You just gave up the grift. You just admitted that you're a part of the establishment, you moron.
All right. Right.
Anyway, let's continue. I'll let finish. That part was hilarious to me.
You're further left than me. Maybe you're less establishment than me. Maybe you're a little further right than me. Most of Gen Z can
Maybe
agree
you
on a
do
couple
less
things.
meth than
we
me.
need more restrictions on guns in this country. There has been more mass shootings than days this year. Women need the right to an abortion. We need to protect our climate. We need better access to healthcare. And look, I know Democrats are struggling with young people recently. I get it. But in my opinion, they'll get back on track. And the person to lead us and do that in 2024 is Joe Biden. Let's go, baby.
Oh my God! Yo, he basically said we know we suck. We know we ate a turd sandwich. We know we just wet our pants and we crap the bed all the time. But still, we're gonna get it right this time. And trust me on it. Trust me on it. We're gonna use that money right this time. We will invest properly. No more timeshares.
Yo, I might be exaggerating here, but I swear to God, these videos are hurting Biden, bro. Like, I don't have the data, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but these videos are definitely hurting, and this is why Joe Biden is down in the polls. Like,
hey, listen, Gen Z, and the off chance you see this, listen, those Adderall kids are really messing up your brand, okay? So Gen Z, if you're watching this, you guys scream out from the top of your lungs. He does not speak for us. He does not speak for us because he's making y'all look bad. That one guy right there is making all of you look bad. Come on, Gen Z, it's up to you because that is just straight up embarrassment right there. The fact that he's getting paid to do that and the Democrats are shilling out like that should tell you all you need to know about who's planning the Democratic campaign in 2024.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to add? CJ, you can do your next story after the last takes. Anything else you guys want to add on this?
Babylon B had a really funny headline after he dropped his campaign ad. An ominous threat to the nation, Joe Biden promises to finish the job. They're dealing with such a broken brand and such a bad product. I don't think they really know what to do. They got a president they literally cannot trust in a press conference. They cannot put him in a press conference. And of course, if this were a Republican, the press would be losing their minds. It's so bad they actually finally did say something. But what do you do? Like, what do you do? How do you sell Joe Biden at this point? You know, with an economy like this, with inflation like this, which is something we haven't seen for decades. I mean, any president would probably lose, much less the Pepperidge Farm guy with Alzheimer's that is Joe Biden.
Yep. CJ, I'll pass to you because I know I think you got another story, so I'll pass to you for the next story.
All right, so let's get to the next story. Before I do, we're at 500 people watching. If you hit that like button, let's add another 100 people. 100 likes there so we can get a couple more people because the next segment is the segment that everybody has been waiting for, I would say, or is here for. We've been alluding to this ourselves with little comments and jokes, and I swear our good friends over at Do Dissidents, you guys are out of work comedy writers. I absolutely believe that because, or maybe you're not out of work as writers, but I know you got a very good comedy feel. I'm in the field. My brother's in the field, so I can tell when somebody can write comedy. Same thing with Kit, but I'm going to talk to you offline about that because I have an idea, a collaborative idea I want to do. But let's get to this main story, gentlemen. This main story is now it's not what you think, people that might be watching. We don't want to make this a bash session or anything like that, because the point of the segment is the realignment of the U.S. left. I feel, and I'm curious to get everybody's take on this, is that we're seeing a lot of indications that the left, or maybe I can be more specific, the Bernie coalition that once has splintered for sure, and I don't think we're coming back. I think these are permanent realignments that we're doing. We have people that are, people like us that are more radical, that are have given up more on the Democrats. But things like the Ukraine war is a big fault line. Things like the elected progressives is another huge fault line. Strike breaking, and Marianne Williamson is turning out to be another huge fault line that we're seeing. That this realignment that's happening. Is really happening before our eyes. People that we used to be cool with, you'll see maybe Vanguard, for example, has been on this network. I'm not sure if they participated in the summit, but at this point, that is completely done. Considering now, I haven't seen the stream that they did today, and I'm not going to watch it because they're literally are beneath
who?
Me, the Vanguard. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to watch it. But I literally, and I know all of you have gotten the same thing. I've literally got over 20 messages saying, you got to check the Vanguard.
They were on for like 3 hours.
They basically did 3 hours about you.
3 hours talking about you guys? They love you. They love you.
3 hours, man.
They did 3 hours stream.
Whenever Keaton texts me that some shit is on the Vanguard, I ask him to be very specific about the time because I can't watch it. I'm like, specifically, what should I look at? I can't take more than 5 minutes.
By the second.
It was a 3-hour love letter to you guys at RBN because you guys hurt their feelings and they just want to be friends again, buddies. Come on.
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead. You want to chime in? Go ahead.
They did a 3-hour live stream over our 10-minute segment.
3 hours? No, they just kept going.
It was a long time. I checked it. It said like 3 hours and 3 minutes or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man, because when I texted,
I saw a little bit of it, and they were trying to pretend that we was actually like their points was so weak. Like I'm like, man, with English like this, man, we are good.
Well,
I heard they had to turn their comments off.
They pulled a specific segment where Nick, you said something to the effect of, we called them out for lying about the dirty break, which is why we didn't get invited to the wedding. And immediately after you said that, you started laughing.
Yeah.
Which meant it was obvious you meant that as a joke. But then they responded to it as if you actually meant it seriously, that you were denied an invite to the wedding because you called them for the dirty break. Yeah. But it's funny because they paused the video on the frame where they can see both you and CJ laughing as if you're obviously kidding. But they acted as if that was a serious point, that you seriously felt snubbed and betrayed,
and that's why I hear from
you didn't get an invite to the wedding because you called them out on the dirty break stuff.
I was obviously joking, and their only critique was, oh my god, they just mad that they didn't go to the wedding. they did not address the asset journalism part because they could not. And they was like, man, they did a 2-hour live stream. And also Vanguard, this is why their channel is dead. They had built a reputation of lying to their supporters. One of the parts I caught was when they said RBN. They said RBN did a 2-hour live stream over this about this wedding. Nigga, we did not cover the wedding until literally 90 minutes in. We covered the wedding 90 minutes in, and they know we did because in order for you to do the reaction video, you had to fast forward 90 minutes. So then they lied to their audience and say, "Oh well, RBN did a 2-hour live stream over the wedding." That is not what happened. You guys did a 3-hour live stream over our 10-minute segment because you guys were so in shambles because I ratioed you into oblivion. Vanguard, they love doing videos about people getting ratioed, but in that segment, they did not show me ratioing them because their audience cannot see our position.
And so, I heard they turn off their comments too on the video.
They turned the comments off. They made it
comments
subscriber only because I was about to say, why don't you debate me? But it was subscriber only, and I don't fucking subscribe to them. And the Vanguard are cowards. They refused to debate Jackson fucking Hinkle. You scared of Jackson Hinkle? And I've been openly saying I want to debate Vanguard. They won't do it because they are intellectual cowards who know they have no idea.
They're dumb as dog shit,
Nick,
I mean,
guys,
that's so obvious when you're listening to them.
Gentlemen. Well, we all know why the Vanguard won't debate. I mean, come on, they got Aaron Buzzsaw, all right. So there you go. So I mean, once you get a beating like that, you ain't gonna try and go and walk into that ever again. I mean, let's face it. It's pretty sad though that they did that. I didn't know it was 3 hours over a 10-minute video you guys did. Man, you were living in their head rent free.
They got ratio to death. That's why. And then they unfollowed our account after that because even though we hated you, I still follow them.
Oh, they did.
I'm not salty. I'm not salty, but they unfollowed the main account because they were super mad. Because I ratioed them to death. I got a tweet there. I may pull it up. And they tried their best. It was so obvious to anyone who don't already hate RBN that they were trying to misrepresent our position. Extremely desperate. And then there was a certain point, CJ, where the lyrics were like, man, it's hilarious. He's like, man, it's kind of funny how bad CJ and Nick is at this. And I'm like, sir. You realize that the Vanguard only exists because of Force to Vote, right? So Force to Vote happened. Vanguard got Noam Chomsky on. Then Jimmy and everyone in the left tweeted that video out. And then Vanguard got thousands and thousands and thousands of subs overnight. When we started this channel, the Vanguard was at like 20,000 plus subscribers. So, and their channel was only made because Forced to Vote and because the Bernie Industrial Complex. We came after all that shit was over. After Forced to Vote was over, after all these channel growing events was over. And we still surpassed them despite being suppressed. And then they had interviews with Aaron Mate and Lee Camp that completely killed their channel. They maintain to this day that the Marianne Wilson interview for us was a disaster for some reason because we exposed her. But after the Marianne Wilson podcast, many people said they're not going to support her, and our subscribers went up a ton. After Aaron Mate interview, their channel has not went up since then.
Yep.
Their channel is dead on arrival, but then they were pretending that they somehow have better content than us. It was unbelievably cringe, and unbelievably desperate, and it showed that we struck a chord because Ben Borges came out with a video. I didn't watch it though. There are a lot of people come out with the videos.
They're not addressing the issue though. You notice they're not talking about the specific part, and I'll add this other part in it, but the specific part about why, like the journalists hobnobbing or hanging out with a presidential candidate during the election. Like, let's say this happened like outside of the context of a presidency. Let's say after she loses and she tells everybody to vote for Joe Biden, right? So let's say they had their wedding then. Nobody would be, or at least we would not be talking about this. So let's make this clear for any Vanguard fans that might be in the audience. We're specifically bringing up only the point is that you're hanging out with a presidential candidate, not that you have a wedding, not that the Vanguard went to your wedding, not that people who happen to be in the business of independent media are friends with each other. Nobody has a problem with that. None of that is the issue. Getting married, two media figures getting married, like Nika Brzezinski and Morning Joe, like nobody cares about that. It's the fact that if this was a picture, can you put that back up there? And that was Joe Biden. And then it was, Jake Tapper. It was Wolf Blitzer. It was Rachel Maddow. It was, I'm trying to get somebody at each station. It was Laura Ingraham, all surrounded saying cheese. That would be a problem. Everybody will be looking at that kind of weird. And that's the reaction they got, regardless of what they're trying to spin. And I'll pass it to the dude. I know you guys want to chime in. Regardless of what they're trying to spin at this point, they're trying to throw out everything else, like as if we're saying that, when the only critique is that this is access journalism. Go ahead, guys.
Well, no, that's exactly. I mean, we did a brief segment about this on our last show, and we said exactly that. Like, look, we're not interested in trolling Crystal and Kyle's wedding. The Vanguard guys got the invite. God bless. It's kind of odd that for two guys who accuse all these other hosts of ball riding a certain other prominent indie media figure, we've not been invited to a single function of his, right? But okay, fine. Congrats, right? Ride those balls all the way to the wedding, knock yourself out, have a great time. Doesn't matter. Brianna Joy Gray, Katie Halper, Burgess, doesn't matter. Who cares? Mazel tov, right? When you invite the presidential candidate who you are promoting and who beyond that, yes, as you guys, Nick and CJ rightfully pointed out, they essentially recruited her into the race.
Exactly.
Of course, that is a conflict of interest. And of course, that would no doubt become an apparent conflict of interest if Marianne were to ever catch fire and become a serious candidate, which to me gets to the real scandal of this, which is the fact that they invited her to the wedding means that surely they know she's going nowhere. Because if they expected her to catch fire, they would know that this would be a problem for her down the road. Because as you said, CJ, if Joe Biden went to Anderson Cooper's wedding during campaign season, he would know certainly that would be a problem for him down the road as the campaign heated up. So certainly, Crystal and Kyle figured, well, yeah, this would look kind of bad for Marianne if she ever caught fire and posed a serious threat to Joe Biden. But since that's never going to happen, what the hell? She's a friend of ours. Let's invite her to the wedding. So what this really exposes is not an actual conflict of interest. It would only be a conflict of interest if she went somewhere. What it exposes is that they know she's not going anywhere, but they are selling her to their audience to gain money, subscribers, patrons, blah, blah, blah.
Burgess.
That's what this is all about. That it's all about that. And so the fact that the Vanguard guys were there, Burgess were there, Bree was there, that's sort of incidental. The main point is that they did this knowing that they are selling their audiences a load of bullshit.
Getting to that point, that's such a great point, because I wasn't planning on showing it, but I had a little debate with Ben Borges on Twitter, and Ben Borges, like a fucking idiot, and I ratioed him for this. He's like, why you call this access journalist? What benefit could Crystal Ball get from having Marianne Williamson on?
They invited her to run. She's basically running as a favor to them, which is how they see it. I don't know if Marianne sees it that way, but the effect is she's running as a favor to them. That's the way the cookie crumbles, man.
My simple response was, and this question alone was able to destroy his argument. You don't see how a media person having access to a presidential candidate where they can monetize interviews and have access to someone you claim has a chance at winning a White House? You don't see how they would benefit from that? And to your point, King, that's them admitting that they know Marianne Williamson is no threat and that she's never going to be anywhere near power, right?
You know what else is also interesting too? When Barack Obama won the presidency, it took a while for this was back in her heyday when Oprah Winfrey had to do a show talking about convincing Obama to even run for president. She did this whole big show about it, and even she kept her mouth shut about it. And that's, again, when you're in the media, when you have a platform, and let's face it, Oprah was not some sort of media figure in journalism, but even she had to keep it very hush in regards to what she was going to say about Obama due to the fact that she was very close. And this was a huge election back in 2008. The fact that Marianne Williamson was there, a sitting presidential candidate, sitting at 9%, not the best numbers, but still pretty high numbers.
Down to 2 in a more recent
well, okay. All right. Thanks for the correction. But the fact that you have a presidential candidate this is her second time running in the race. She is surrounded by, again, people who are involved in independent media. This can also be used to decredit and make the rest of us look bad, because the fact that these people who have larger platforms or have far more connections to even people in the establishment, that could discredit a lot of people in independent media going forward, because, oh, hey, look, the people in independent media are doing the same thing you see with corporate media.
That's it. This is the problem with it that they seem to be intentionally missing. Us in this alternative media space and the people who view alternative media, we've been spending 7 some odd years, at least some longer, talking about how the whole corporate media political complex is so incestuous, and look how connected they all are, and they're all friends, and it's just wrestling, and that's not how it's supposed to be. This is the song we've all been singing, including everybody in that picture. That's the problem. Because when you do this, what you are telling people is we're full of shit. Frank Herbert said in Dune, all rebels are closet aristocrats. They want the power that isn't theirs. That's the signal you're sending in a picture like this. You're saying you're a closet aristocrat who aspires to the power you don't have. That all of your rebellious rhetoric is a cover for your own.
Oh Lord,
lust
this
to
is
have
amen
that
time right
position.
here.
Damn, you even
That
brought
is
the Doom
spot
reference.
on right there. That is spot on. Let me play this 15-second video. I can't believe I'm gonna rewind that segment, that part myself, and play. Let's just listen to this and we'll talk.
Marianne Williamson is someone who's my dear friend. That's why she invited her to her fucking wedding to officiate her ceremony. She's always been more than clear about that. She's always been more than open about that. And she should be, because she's actually a serious person, unlike myself, who, like I said.
Yes. So we're not saying Marianne Williamson officiated because we don't have any independent sources to verify that, but that's what the Vanguard guys have alluded to. And if that's true,
crazy.
That makes this way worse.
Way
than
worse.
It would be not before I knew that. I didn't know that if that is true, according to the Vanguard video there. Your thoughts, Nick? It looks like you were going to chime in.
Yeah, and it shows that they was lying, and their own, I don't know if you guys saw, their own audience called them out on this as well. In one of the comments I saw, when they said, wait, hold up. And this is like one of the more higher like comments where once again, this Vanguard's own audience, they get ratioed by their own audience all the time. The dislike bar was a great gift to the Vanguard, because all their videos, post Aaron Monte, all their videos were getting downvoted to death. And then that shit happened, bro. Saved their channel. But anyway, look at this. This is plus 11, the most I see here. My only concern is Marianne Williamson officiating the wedding. So I saw this, I'm like, okay, that's another. So this is, they saw the same thing as well. They admitted it. I don't care that Kyle and Crystal will invite friends and colleagues, but it was unquestionably a networking event. There's no doubt about it. So this is them confirming that this was a event that was officiated by Marianne Williamson. But look at this tweet that the Vanguard put out where they got massively ratioed on, which they did not show their audience. They was lying about our position, and they did not show this ratio. Which and not like they don't cover that, because they love covering ratios on their show. But this is what they said. Imagine smearing leftists. Because they happen to bump into one another at the wedding. Happen to bump at it. Oh my God! You got at the wedding. You got invited, you idiot! And they get ratioed to death because everyone was like, "You guys just bumped into each other at the wedding." That's not how it worked.
Well, look. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, King, go ahead. Chime in.
No, look. I mean, look. It goes back to what you said earlier. If Marianne's not in that photo, there's no issue. Bunch of friends and peers want to take a picture together at a wedding. Who cares?
At all.
Her being in the photo is a story. Of course it's a story. I just put it in the private chat. I don't know if you want to play this video. I haven't watched it yet. I don't know what it is. Kyle just put out a video today talking about how Biden is ready to forfeit New Hampshire. Whose face is featured in the thumbnail? Marianne Williamson. Marianne Williamson. So the day he gets back from wherever the fuck the wedding was, he's putting out puff pieces on the candidate who officiated his wedding. Of course, that's a conflict of interest. No amount of gaslighting by these motherfuckers is going to convince anyone that it's not a conflict of interest. Of course it is. It's the most blatant conflict of interest imaginable.
Holy cow.
It's not, you don't understand. It's not access journalism if my friends do it, though. If my friends do it, though, it's okay. Right. But go ahead, Ken. I think you want to chime in.
Well, here's the thing. Again, look, anything can happen between now and then. Let's face it. Biden is no spring chicken. If something were to happen to him where he cannot run, then you still have RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson still in the Democratic primary. And the thing is, that even puts everybody who was there, including Marianne Williamson's campaign, in a huge spotlight, because here you have a presidential candidate surrounded by journalists and people involved in the media. And then what? She's also officiating their wedding too. At the same time, there's a huge conflict of interest. That means anyone that's her opponent can bring up the fact that, oh, you're being protected by these people now. This is what you're hiding behind. These people on social media are using their connections with you and your campaign. That discredits a lot of everything that we're all doing. No one in independent media, no one in RBN, no one in Due Distance, Hard Lens Media. Hell, even Jimmy Dore's not going to do that. Lee Kemp, Aaron Mate. This is journalism 101. You don't do that. Because anything can happen between now and the coming election. And if something were to happen where Biden's out and Marianne and RFK Jr. are still in,
at that point, they'll find a goon to put in.
They'll find a goon.
True. They will. But then again,
It'll be the Hansons and Slapshot though.
Yeah, let me finish this tweet real quick. I want to make sure I read it. Let me read it quick, and I'll pass it to you guys. I gotta make sure I make this point while we're still on the Vanguard, because since we know Marianne Wilson officiated the event, so like, why is Vanguard framing it as they just ran into each other? That Marianne, she was just at the wedding. We didn't know that Marianne was gonna be at the wedding. You didn't see on the pamphlet that Marianne Wilson was gonna be officiating the wedding. Is that true? So they are lying, just like they lied throughout the video. They have this history of lying, just like they lied about Marianne Wilson's dirty break. So this is the ratio that they did not show their audience because it will actually represent my position clearly. So they were like, how can you smear leftists because they just ran to a wedding? And it's not a shock to us that the progressive left has no idea what access journalism is. So I spelled it out to them. Crystal Ball did a cringe video that we covered. Crystal Ball scolded third-party activists and told them to grow up for refusing to support Marianne Williamson. This is because she planned on inviting her to the wedding. You guys understand? Crystal Ball wanting to invite Marianne Williamson to her wedding is influencing her coverage. It's making her say stupid shit that everyone knows is not true, that Marianne Williamson stands a chance. She got her ass blown out by RFK.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, whether... I'm sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, my bad, I'll wrap it up. So my point is, I said, this is typical sellout access journalism. Are you ever going to apologize for lying about Marianne Wilson's dirty break? Because that's all they do. That's all that Vanguard do. They lie. But King, go ahead, chime in.
No, I was just going to say, whether you can prove a causation there is really not even the point. Like, whether Crystal was adjusting her coverage of Marianne because she wanted her at the wedding, I mean, that's really unknowable. The bottom line is you have these two who basically, as you guys showed, you basically proved it. They recruited her into the race in that interview they did on their podcast way back. I think it was about a year ago. They put in her head, hey, you should run for president. You should run. They were clearly twisting her arm to run because they needed a candidate to back to drive subs to their channel. And so whether like the wedding was the goal or not, I don't think matters as much as she's a good friend of theirs. She's done them a favor. Absolutely. They want to stay on her good side. She's going to be at the wedding. This is a tight, cozy relationship. This is a networking event, as the commenter there said that you just posted a bit. It functions that way. Weddings, family events function that way. We all know that at a certain echelon. These are all about rubbing elbows. And look, if you're there, let's say you did run into Marianne Williamson sort of inadvertently there. Oh, I didn't know Marianne was going to be there. If I'm an independent media person who's so pro-Marianne, and Halper is very pro-Marianne, there was one person who commented in that Vanguard chat that they ran into Katie Halper at a private fundraiser for Marianne.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Then how can you appear in that photo? Like if we were so fortunate as to be invited to the wedding, why would we get in that photo booth? I would be like, no, you know what? If I've got to talk about this election, I don't want to be seen in a photo with the candidate. That looks bad. It's obvious. Listen, let me just put it very, very simply. This is how I put it on our show. If that hypothetical situation that CJ was talking about earlier, where it was Joe Biden posing with Jake Tapper or Anderson Cooper at a family event, their kid's confirmation, their wedding, whatever. If Joe Biden appeared during campaign season at a prominent media person's family event, would Crystal, Kyle, Katie Halper, Brianna Joy Gray, would they not all do segments talking about how brazenly corrupt that is? Of course they would. Of course they would. In a second they would. And yet they don't want anybody calling them out for this? It's nonsense. Nonsense. Of course it looks bad to be in that picture with Marianne Williamson. Without her, fine, knock yourself out. Who the hell cares?
And I just want to point out, and look, we're the post-duopoly left. We're not supporting either of them, really. not within a Democratic primary.
Nope.
It says a lot that given these choices, they're all gravitating towards the well-connected, wealthy LA guru instead of the guy who's speaking out about Ukraine and attacking all of these sacred cows that really upset the establishment and talking about how the CIA whacked his uncle. Right? They're all, why are they all like, okay, man, you still want to invest in this Democratic primary thing. Why the Topanga Canyon hippie? Like, why would you not go for the more legit person?
Well, I don't think RFK is ordained. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, that's a great point, bro. So I actually made that point, I believe, yesterday, because what these Marianne Williamson supporters would tell you was, oh man, we just need a primary in the Democratic Party. We need a left challenger to Joe Biden, and we picked Marianne Williamson because she's the only one. And not because we were friends with her. There's no other candidate. This is back when they made a miscalculation that no one else is going to run against Biden. So then RFK comes, destroys Joe Biden and destroyed Marianne Williamson in the polls almost immediately. So if you actually cared about having a primary where someone represents a position that's supporting healthcare and progressive policies, you support RFK. But they don't, because it's not about that. It was always about propping up Marianne Williamson in her potential book tour she's about to go on after this.
Well, and also connecting them to people. Look, you hook up with Marianne Williamson, you get connected to David Geffen. You hook up with RFK, you get hooked up with a documentarian who did an anti-vax vaccines cause all, like that's not going to do anything for them. Especially, look, Crystal's already got $44 million, man. She's already connected. But you got these schmucks like the Vanguard. They're not going to get anything out of hooking up with RFK, but they can get connected with people who are nowhere in their universe by hooking up with Marianne Williamson.
Absolutely.
You know what else is pretty pathetic too? It's in regards to this we talked about this on the last power panel, but this manufactured need to try and recreate the Bernie Sanders movement of 2016 with somebody else. Those shoes are too big for Marianne Williamson to fit in, and it's quite clear that her campaign is going to end up the same way as what happened to her in 2020. I would expect more professionalism from a lot of these people who've been in the business longer, who've been around and have seen the fact that DNC commits election fraud. I would expect more from people to do the right thing, but I guess in their need to get the views, to get the money from the election of 2024, they're willing to compromise their own values. And if that's the case, it really puts the future of independent media at risk, because if you, like, again, as was stated before, if this had been anybody else, let's say Biden showing up at somebody at MSNBC or CNN, one of their events, a wedding, anything like that, all of them would have been saying the exact same thing that we're saying here right now. And they need to be called out on it, because you have a presidential candidate at your wedding and, dare I say it, officiating there. I mean, that's what the boys at the Vanguard are saying. They're saying it, not us. They're the ones that are saying they were there. Cenk and Anna weren't there, so I don't know. I guess they got their invite lost in the mail or something.
They're probably pretty big mad. Now, this is the same segment. Let's bring into the conversation. Let's also add RFK and talk about him versus Marianne Williamson. This is all kind of wrapped up, because this is also sort of a dividing line between I would say the pseudo left, the NATO left, the boutique left. That's what we refer to them, and then the actual left, the radical left, people like ourselves. Go ahead if you were gonna chime in.
I was gonna say the photo booth left.
Yeah,
that's another good one. That's another good one, especially for this segment. So, all right, so let's listen a little bit. Let me know when you want to stop. Shout out Case Study QB. He clipped this. Glenn Greenwald goes on the Laura Ingraham show to talk about what's happening, how the Democrats have canceled democracy, and how primaries really don't matter in a rigged system.
When Joe Biden finally announced his 2024 re-election bid last week, he might have expected a pretty easy go of it. After all, he's an incumbent, probably a glide path to the nomination. But instead, what he found was that nearly 1/3 of his party is aligned against him. 20% of Democrat voters are now lining up behind Robert Kennedy Jr. Now, that's a stunning showing for a candidate who has no real campaign operation. And even poor old Marianne Williamson, she has nearly 10% of the vote. So some things are so unsettled, right? You would think that this is going to be a real robust debate season coming up for the party of democracy, right?
Some of my progressive friends who would like to live in a fantasy land, they need to come back to reality. And the reality is this. The sitting president of the United States of America is a Democrat that would like to run for re-election, so much so that he has declared a re-election campaign. In that case, the Democratic National Committee will not facilitate a primary process. There will be no debate stage for Bobby Kennedy, Marianne Williamson, or anyone else.
Now, that's not just some random pundit. That's a former senior advisor to Biden who seamlessly transitioned to the administration's press office at MSNBC. Joining us now, Glenn Greenwald. We've missed him, Pulitzer Prize-winning independent journalist. Glenn, great to see you tonight. That was a wild comment. I was in the gym and I, flipped on all the cables and I'm watching, and I said, "Wait a second, did she just say that?" And it was so brazen. Like, don't even think there's going to be a debate. What do we make of this?
Even if you look at it from the perspective of, say, like some party apparatchik, which she is, even though she now wears the journalism hat at MSNBC, if you see polling data showing that 30% of the party is ready to back another candidate, as you say, even ones who have no campaign operation yet, that shows a lot of concern and dissatisfaction with Joe Biden. You would think if you have any respect for your voters, the last thing you would do them is to tell them, you're just going to have to swallow this. There'll be no debating, no dissent, no opposition from you. You're going to sit there and silently and take it. And yet that is their messaging because they believe, and I think with good reason, that Democrats at the last minute always snap into line.
Are they more afraid of RFK, the candidate,
right,
or his ideas, since all this information is now becoming accepted about the mRNA shot and, of course, all the suppression of dissenting medical views at the, for the really first 2 years of COVID?
I think it's a great point. Marianne Williamson, I interviewed her. I didn't really find huge differences between her and Biden. There's nothing she's saying that would concern anyone in Democratic Party circles, but RFK.
He says there's nothing that would concern any Democratic establishment. Nobody is seeing her at all being different. That is scathing coming from somebody who actually interviewed her, and he was fair. He wasn't trying, you know what I mean? He was trying to be fair and balanced. Like when she gave an obvious stupid answer, he didn't challenge her. He just re-asked it and tried to get her to come on to a better answer, which she never did. There's a Jimmy George show. Shout out to Jimmy George.
Shout out to Jimmy. Yeah, I read a big shout out to Jimmy. FYI, the beginning of the end for the Vanguard was when I entered the super chat. And y'all forgot about this when Ryan Grimm was on their show. And they showed that they are access journalists because they had Ryan Grimm and they wanted that intercept access. So I remember that Jimmy was saying super chats being critical, giving them questions that they were too scared to ask Ryan Grimm because they don't want confrontation. So let me get this right, Vanguard. and their excuse for that, because I heard their excuse at the time. They said, well, we have a guest on. We don't want to be rude when you have a guest on. And Jimmy was asking rude questions. We didn't want to make our guests upset. So when you have Ryan Grimm on, you like, oh, we got to be nice to our guests. But you have Aaron Mate on, and you have Lee Camp, two people who are considered anti-imperialists, and you guys are assholes to them. So they are assholes to Aaron Mate, assholes to Lee Camp, but they are extremely friendly with Ryan Grimm and don't want to make Ryan Grimm uncomfortable. Do you guys see these inconsistencies? Because Ryan Grimm and Aaron Mate are not part of the club. Ryan Grimm is. So
Ryan Grimm was the flower boy at the wedding. I don't know if you knew that. See, so everything happens for a reason.
Well, they actually, we did a segment on this. They actually went on air and said straight out, we had to pretend to like Jimmy for a while, and then we said we have to get values.
Right. Yeah, they said that.
I mean, they straight out said to their audience, we lied to you and pretended to be something that we weren't. And now,
so then they were never authentic about force to vote or anything else. What they're doing is just doing it.
That's what they said. That's what they said. They said it straight out. Straight out.
They all want it for
And
clout.
remember, they was mad because they in that same segment, because I saw your coverage of it, when he was like, "Yeah, there was a point where we was part of the Jimmy Dore left, and then Jimmy turned on us, and then when Jimmy turned on them, that's when we like, fuck, we got to pivot. We got."
Well, they said, yeah, they said because they took a passing dig at us. They said that I don't know, we were Jimmy Dore ball riders. Which Jimmy, if you're still watching, we never got an invitation to Nowhere Yours. I don't know what that's about. Apparently, it didn't pay off too well. But they accused us of that, and then they said 10 seconds later, by the way, we used to do that until we decided to get some principles, right? Because he was going too right wing, whatever the line was. But no, they admitted it outright.
He's going right wing as fuck. Time to get some principles.
They do this thing all the time where they say, and this is what they were doing in the stream, where they can't critique us on our ideas, so they take advantage of liberals' Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome. So they say, so people who don't know us, they connect it. They're like, oh, they're Jimmy Doreites. So people who liberals who hate Jimmy Dore will immediately discount us. So they call us Jimmy Doreites in order to take advantage of that. But I had Nelson Mandela's grandson on our show. We had Murray Kinley on our show.
The same day we did the other stream.
we had two Black from Black Power Media on and Black Myth podcast on. Think about all the Black leftists. Think about everyone that we have on our show. But they know that they have nothing but a liberal audience, so they call us a Dorite because they're trying to take advantage of Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome.
Right.
Man, they are so sneaky. They're so
Man,
sneaky.
that's scumbag
Anyway, thanks for
material.
big shout out to Jimmy. CJ, or sorry, anyone else who want to chime in?
Yeah, no, if you want to chime in what Jimmy said or kind of reflect on to bring everybody back to the conversation or to the video. Glenn Greenwald interviewed Marianne Williamson. He's like, yeah, for my interview, nobody in the establishment is going to be in fear of Marianne Williamson, but RFK, they will be. Actually, let me play it, and then I'll stop it for comments. So let me play it just to refresh everybody's memory. I'll replay the last 10 seconds here, and then I'll stop it for comment.
I didn't really find huge differences between.
My bad. I didn't go back far enough. Right here is where we'll go.
An A shot, and of course, all the suppression of dissenting medical views at the, for the really first 2 years of COVID.
I think it's a great point. Marianne Williamson, I interviewed her. I didn't really find huge differences between her and Biden. There's nothing she's saying that would concern anyone in Democratic Party circles. But RFK Jr., from the beginning of the pandemic, has been a very strong dissident about things that he turned out to be right about, and Dr. Fauci and Democrats turned out to be wrong about. And the last thing they want is having all of that revisited, and whether these authorities can really be trusted. He's also opposed to Biden.
So let me stop it there, and I'll get everybody to chime in. What do you think about what he says about Marianne Williamson? And then the second point that he makes, do you think the debates were cut off because of RFK and because of what he believes? They can't be on the debate stage debating vaccines. They can't be debating what's happening with COVID. They can't be debating Ukraine. So do you think that let's go to Kit, and then we'll go to the due dissonance guys.
Okay, well,
what's up, Kit?
Yeah, so the DNC establishment made it very clear what they want for their narrative and what they were telling people, especially during the height of the 2020 pandemic, as well as the 4 years of what was happening under Donald Trump. So they can't have the debates with RFK Jr. up there because he's breaking against the narrative, and he could potentially, again, make Joe Biden look bad on the debate stage. Plus, it will even shine a brighter light on the fact that the DNC don't have fair primaries. How many of our channels, be it from Nico House to you guys here at RBN, Due Dissidents, Hard Lens, Jimmy Dore, have said the same thing. The Democrats choose who they want behind closed doors. Plus, they have a thing called super delegates. And in comparison to the Republican primaries far more Democratic. And that's not saying much. Unfortunately, the thing about RFK Jr. is that his campaign still isn't being aggressive enough, in my opinion, to really call out the DNC hypocrisy, because I could see history repeating itself over again, in which, again, the DNC puts their thumb on the scale, and any challenger to the establishment pick, be it Biden or somebody else, will be favored heavily. So they can't do that. Plus, also, if you have a Democratic candidate going up against a Democratic or corporate media narrative, it makes everything the corporate media has been saying the past 4 years, dare I say it, even during the Trump years, look absolutely buffoonish. They will look like fools in front of the whole world, and it will expose them for the hypocrites and frauds that they are. Now, as for Marianne Williamson, She's not a credible threat to Biden because, one, look at her interview that she did with you guys in which she had an absolute meltdown. And then number two, my interview that I did with Greg Marcel Dixon, who's running for Congress in South Carolina. There he is talking to her about reparations, and it starts off nice, and then she starts snapping at him, spazzing out at him. If you look at her body language when that video starts off, when Marcel Dixon is speaking to her, she's close to him, all friendly, and as soon as he starts deviating away from what is appropriate talking, at least according to Marianne Williamson, she backs away and then starts yelling at him, browbeating him, If anyone wants to check out my interview, he will tell you what happened with the aftermath, because apparently her staff was very kind and approachable to Marcel, but Marianne was absolutely hostile. So she can't handle
the same thing. Sorry, Cal, when you continue, but our friend of the show, Comrade Misty, who I definitely trust, Marianne Williamson went to some Assange event. And then Misty says she was extremely rude to her and a few organizers there, and they had a bad taste in their mouth from Marianne Williamson since then. Once again, that comes from Comrade Misty, her anecdotal experience. You guys see how she treated me. You guys see how she treated Marcel. If you're a millionaire, if you're within her accepted class with an accepted position, she's all friendly. But if you're not, you see the Karen come out. But sorry, go ahead, kid.
I'll just end it with this. Look, if she can't handle an interview on Revolutionary Blackout Network and be criticized, if she can't handle a candidate that's running for Congress in South Carolina asking her questions about reparations, then she has no business sitting in the throne in Washington, D.C. in the White House. She's not a credible threat, and Glenn Greenwald's analysis is perfect and on point. Simple as that.
Yeah, well said. We can do distancing. I'll chime in. You guys have anything you want to add to the Glenn Greenwald part before I chime in?
Well, yeah, the photo booth left would respond with real outrage to the statement that Marianne is not different from Biden, because what they would point to is, what do you mean? You know, Kyle would say, she's for Medicare for all, Green New Deal, this and that, right? They would list off this laundry list of domestic policy differences that ultimately mean nothing, because the Democrats are able to shut those conversations down or steer them the way they want to go. Medicare for all means taking people's health insurance away, taking people's private plans away. We can't do that. Green New Deal costs too much money. The Democratic Party is perfectly willing to entertain the quote-unquote progressive candidate, like the Sanders candidate, who goes up there and talks about student debt, talks about universal health care, talks about Green New Deal. Okay, go up there, talk a big game, right? Who cares? The topics that they cannot have entertained on the stage are the topics that RFK would bring to that debate stage, which are the COVID stuff, which is the Ukraine war, which is the CIA, the deep state. Those are the issues that the Democrats can't have anybody even talking about. So yeah, Marianne superficially different from Biden in that she says she wants Medicare for all. Okay, great. Democrats just ran a primary 3 years ago where they very, very effectively propagandized against Medicare for all. Therefore, that's not a threat to them. This guy comes up saying the CIA whacked my uncle. That they can't have. That's a different thing. That's a different thing altogether.
We mentioned. I mentioned. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Russell.
They wouldn't have debates no matter what. It wouldn't matter. You could have the most milquetoast candidates. This is their shit. They made that very clear when they walked into a court and offered as a defense against Bernie donors who were suing them for fraudulent misrepresentation of the primaries as a fair contest. This is a private organization, and if we wanted to do what they used to do in the old days and just pick the candidate in a smoke-filled back room, we could do that. That's it. Beyond that, why you would even be interested in getting politically involved in that party after they told you straight out they're going to decide who the nominee is, and you're going to swallow it. Wait, that's what they did in 2016, isn't it? That's what they did in 2020. Yep. They told you this is how they operate. So if they don't have to have debates, they're not going to. It wouldn't matter what their positions are. The fact that RFK has these kinds of positions doesn't help. But, he could be Mitt Romney and they still would not let him on a debate stage.
So I want to, and that clip of Glenn roasting Marianne Williamson is hilarious, because I don't know if you guys saw the interview that he did with Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
It was a disaster, son. Like, and I'm not talking about in terms of civility. Like, it was a very civil interview, but Glenn pressed her on foreign policy. And then like, bro, and the reason I said this because I'm glad that Glenn is out, like roasting Marianne, because I like soon that shit dropped. I was talking to Glenn afterwards. Glenn texted me. He was like, Nick, you gotta see this shit. I pressed Marianne Wilson on foreign policy. He told me like literally right there, he sent me the clip like, bro, you gotta see this shit, bro. She completely fucking failed, bro. Like this, she did horrible. That's why we did the segment after that, after you see the video.
Right
now,
after, yeah.
Now you see what Glenn Greenwald thinks of Marianne, because just like RBN, I gave her a fair trial and she failed spectacularly. And people wonder why we were so opposed to her. Glenn Greenwald did the same thing. Glenn had her on. She failed the test, and he told me privately he thinks she's trash. And now I can say this story because now he went on Lauren Ingram. Like a ton of people saw Glenn Greenwald say, "Yo, fucking ass, bro." Like this is what he's openly saying that she's ass. So I'm glad that's plain to see. And this is why people who support Marianne Williamson, man, lost a lot of respect for a lot of people that are doing this, and it marks you as unserious. Like you realize that Marianne Williamson is running for the commander-in-chief to be the leader of the executive branch. She's not running to be a Congress fucking person. Why is she only talking about shit that Congress does, the legislative branch does, if she's running to be president? This is what Glenn, unlike many of the unserious leftists that we've seen at Marianne Williamson, Crystal Ball's wedding, he understands that if you have a presidential candidate on your show, you ask them about foreign policy. You don't ask them about stuff like, do you believe in Medicare for all? Irrelevant to her position as president. And this is what idiots like the Vanguard would do. You guys support Marianne Williamson even though you guys agree on 95%. She supports funding Nazis in Ukraine. Why the fuck would anyone on the left support someone who agrees with Joe Biden on foreign policy? Why are you running for president? Fucking
right. We already have somebody.
Anyway, go ahead, guys.
I think we're coming to a close. Any last comments on anything, and then we'll get to like wrap ups, like what is everybody doing next? But any final comments, any lingering comments on any of the topical,
and we can do super chats too as well. CJ.
Look, the Democratic primary is going to be rigged in favor for the establishment. We're going to see history repeat itself. To anyone that's really a diehard supporter of RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson, before you start giving any of your hard-earned money, start supporting community groups and activists and organizations and third parties that are actually trying to do good. If you don't want to vote, hey, consider, if you live in a citizen ballot initiative state, support citizen ballot initiatives. All right. Don't waste your time with these politicians, because the thing is, if they're not going to fight against the clear election fraud that will take place, and we're seeing it take place now, don't waste your money and time. We saw it twice with Bernie Sanders. Don't let history repeat itself 3 times in a row with yourselves. I understand people want to fight the DNC, but the DNC doesn't want to change. They're an abusive spousal partner, and you are far too pretty. All of you are far too pretty to be wasting your time with someone who's going to smack around and cheat you. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go around the room for let's do some super chats because there might be questions.
I got a few started here. We can go through them real quick. Thanks for the 199 blunts and otters. Looks like the Vanguard to lead the Aaron Monte video. Can someone confirm that? That would be hilarious.
Oh, hold on. I'll do that for you. I'll do some investigative journalism right now. There you go.
Then they turned the comments off. Dude, the comments. I remember I read that shit was so brutal, man. They killed their channel in one interview, like unlike in a way I never seen before. Like after the Aaron Monte interview, they lost like 1,000 subscribers like immediately.
Not did they kill their channel, they made our channel. That was like our first breakout video, was making fun of them for that interview. That's when we got our first batch of real
followers. That was it. It was a hobby until then.
Yeah, it was a hobby until
they're
then.
job creators too, I guess.
Yeah, job creators.
Nothing that bad. Dude, they had all that momentum. Their channel was built or forced to vote, and then nothing happened after that. And then you just kill your channel.
It's so sad because like they've completely kissed ass on that whole panoply. You know, they were on the leftist mafia to cover the Tim Pool Lance thing. They were, and now they're all over Twitter with at this wedding, and it didn't budge their subscribers. Like nobody wants to watch their shit, and I think that's because if you want those kinds of politics, why are you going to watch Dumb and Dumber do it? Like, why aren't there are people, whatever you think of some of these other folks in that picture, they're all a lot more talented than those guys. So why would you go there if that's what you're looking for?
And they lie about stuff that's completely easily provable. Easily provable. We can get to the next one.
Well, they were actually in that segment. This is how fundamentally stupid they are. They were going on about people kind of aligning with Jimmy Dore for access and all of this, and never criticizing them. What the fuck are you guys doing with Kyle, with Marianne, with Crystal? Like, what do you do? I haven't seen you say a bad word about any of them since your grift drifted in that direction. Yet they literally went on the air and started talking about how Kyle's a man of principle who didn't compromise his channel for subs. What? They literally, I swear to God, they said that. I swear to God, they said, and they unfavorably compared them to Jimmy Dore. They went, Jimmy Dore was there cranking and cranking. I swear to God, that's what they said. And they were like, yeah, and Kyle. People were like, Jimmy Dore, he's building all these subs, cranking it along. You got to do that too. But Kyle said, no, I'm doing something else with my channel. And hats off to you. Seriously, at the same exact time, within the same, like 2 minutes before, they were talking about people kissing Jimmy Dore's ass.
Oh, you gotta send me that link. You gotta send me that video. You gotta send me that video.
They always do this because they have no other argument. They smear. Like, I always explain this before they smear people out Jimmy Dore. But I want you guys to explain to me how this makes any sense, and I want to show you guys the insanely bad logic of the Vanguard and their people. Their argument, because I hear them say that, they said Jimmy Dore had captivated a right-wing audience. This is the argument, right? Jimmy Dore audience, he's not bigger than Cal or all these people they like because he's legit. It's because he got a right-wing audience. And we are and the reason why we don't criticize Jimmy is because we want to get that right-wing audience. So their claim is that Jimmy Dore's audience is right-wing, but somehow they are following a group of openly black communists. Like, openly. So are right-wingers okay with communists? CJ, how many panels have we done on reparations? So we did reparation panels. We did all the things that's completely abhorrent to the right. And we openly do. We openly talk about black liberation, openly talk about communism. I openly praise Cuba and Nicolas Maduro all the time. But according to the Vanguard, Jimmy Dore's right-wing audience is 100% okay with my ass praising Fidel Castro. This is the argument that they believe is actually influential, that people actually believe. It's absolutely ridiculous. And they also say that they are afraid to criticize Jimmy Dore. And I'm asking you guys this question: how many times we criticize John Mubaraka? How many times we criticize Mark Kimberly? How many times we criticize Aaron Mate? How many times we criticize any of these guests we have on? Because our guest is post-duopoly. If you're not post-duopoly and you start propping up the duopoly, that's when we go after you. They pretend that Jimmy is the only guy we don't go after. Meanwhile, Black Power Media, all these countless people that we associate with. But anyway, we all know they bad faith. Anyway, let me get to the super chat. I don't want to rant too long on that one. Pay for $5. Is RFK Jr. having a post christening party that he could invite you guys? One more thing, people said I heard another Christmas out here. They're like, man, why you guys are gonna have all this venom for Marianne Williamson, but you guys don't have that venom for RFK? Now, I openly said I'm not gonna support RFK, but as a point I just made earlier, I think Marianne Williamson is a joke because she supports the Ukrainian war. I criticize everyone who supports the Ukrainian war, and Marianne Williamson did. When RFK announced his campaign, I was sitting there waiting. Go ahead and say some stupid shit about Ukraine, my nigga. Go ahead, I dare you. He didn't. So my only criticism is his strategy. When it comes to Marianne Williamson, she is so garbage and so obviously unread on left issues. No, she is. I can critique her on her policy. I critiqued her on the two-state solution. Critiqued her, and that's what she called me a mansplainer after that. Yeah. We critique her. She ran in our interview before we get to the Ukraine war, but Glenn exposed her on that. There's real serious issues with liberals pretending to be on the left and then supporting the U.S. empire. Like, that's a giant problem, because I view you as an infiltrator. if you are an imperialist, but you want to represent the left, because you're trying to get the left to be okay with funding Nazis in Ukraine. You want to anoint yourself as a leader and then put that as our position. That is not acceptable. And if RK did the same thing, I would roast him too. Like when it comes to supporting war. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going too long. You guys super chats always make me fucking rant. Anyway, let me get to, I know you guys gotta go, so I'll go through it faster. Thanks for 499 Franklin. Does anyone actually think global warming will be stopped? If not, how can you be against the wall? This is getting funny. That humanity wave will need to be stopped now. And to the first question, because I see another super chat I actually want to put to you guys. I do not think global warming will be stopped, but we need to have a serious conversation about climate justice. Like, what do we do about ExxonMobil and people who lied to us? Like, at this point, we are so far gone, we got to start prosecuting the people who are responsible for this. Now, I'm going to get to the other comment. And this is something I can tackle. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this as well, whether we agree or disagree. Isn't tighter border control pro working class? Can't understand how open borders is good for workers. Now, this is what I'm trying to lecture you guys, and this is what I want you guys to understand. What is the mechanism of a border? What is the main obstacle from you leaving from one country to another? It's money. It's resources, right? So if you're rich, borders don't exist. If you're rich, you can live wherever the fuck you want. In fact, if you're rich, you can open a sweatshop in a third world country and pay people in that country a significantly less wage. So not only can you travel wherever the fuck you want if you're rich, you can open businesses wherever the fuck you want. You can hire, you can export American jobs whenever the fuck you want. So this border does not exist for capitalists. So if I'm a Marxist and now if I want to work in Mexico, if I want to work in Nicaragua, what the fuck is stopping me? Money. Money is the only thing that you guys think is a border. There's no fucking borders. It's a capitalist construct. And the most pro-worker position is allow workers freedom of movement. So if I want to live in another country and I can work there, that's pro-worker. Give workers a choice where they want to go. Limiting where workers can work at, and then while at the same time allowing capitalists to offshore jobs, that's extremely anti-worker. Last point to end my rant, and I have been asking this question for years, never got a good question, never a good answer for this. I keep asking right-wingers, because right-wingers say immigration drive down wages. Now, as a Marxist, I have a lot of problems with this statement, because what does Juan have to do with the fact that the Walton family is not paying Walmart their fair labor value? If everyone was forced to pay the fair labor value, there's nothing that immigrant is doing that's stealing your wages. So capitalists who steal your labor value, who commit wage theft against you, then point at the immigrant and say, "Oh, it's his fault. I'm stealing your wages." How does that make fucking sense? Like if we did not have a system that was run by greedy capitalists the way we do, the labor wouldn't be devalued. But anyway, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Whether you agree or not, that's my take. That's a Marxist interpretation of open borders.
All right, I'll go first. Here's the thing. To anyone who is in the right wing, votes Republican or conservatives, and worried about the border, the real question is the reason why there's a problem there is because the U.S. keeps on doing coups, regime change wars, economic sanctions, and the war on drugs and supporting cartels. The reason why there's people running to the U.S. borders because of policies being implemented by both Democratic and Republican presidential administrations and politicians that profit off the war on drugs, the prison industrial complex, and the military industrial complex. So the thing is, there would be no problem at the border were not for U.S. interference for the past, 50, 60 years now at this point, maybe even going further, even before the war on drugs ever became in existence. So there's a reason why there's a problem at the border. It isn't just one day somebody in Central and South America just said, gee, I'm just going to walk this arduous long march to the United States and make some other worker in America's life hell and lower wages and everything else. No, they're running because we are implementing draconian policies on people and ruining countries and nations' lives for forever. There's a reason why people are coming here in mass. It's because of what our heartless politicians are doing. So if you want to do something about the border, it isn't just opening up. It's ending the war on drugs, ending these sanctions, ending these coups, ending the support of the military-industrial complex in Central and South America. You want a better future? You want a safe border? First of all, let's undo the damages we've been doing there for decades. That's why there's a goddamn problem.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the ultimate ironies is that I think one of the things that Donald Trump hit a nerve on when he first ran is inadvertently, I'm not saying he meant it this way, but calling out the sort of neoliberal power structures who, you're right, Nick, they don't believe in borders themselves. Capitalism doesn't want borders. Globalist, capitalist leaders don't want borders. They see countries themselves as a hindrance. All a country is to them is a series of lines on a map that constitute where and how they can do business. And certain countries like Cuba, right, who say we don't want your business, those are the really bad countries, right? Those are the ones they really don't like, are the ones that don't let them do business there. But yeah, to people with all this money who can jump a border if they want and set up shop wherever they want, all a border is to them is a boundary that dictates, okay, across this line, how can we do business, if at all? How can we sell our shit? How can we get people to make our shit to sell to other people who live in inside this other set of sort of arbitrary boundaries? So yeah, I think that's right.
And you guys understand they use that the boundaries are extremely important to control the workers. How do we go to this massive global economy where all these trade deals are made, where people can send companies overseas, but workers can't move? Modern society should adjust it to that. So you guys got
right. Capital enjoys open borders. It's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let's last thing for $5 and open board for them, closed board for us because they don't want workers. Oh yeah, one more thing I want to show you. I lost my train of thought for a second, but one thing that like really hurts this narrative where the capitalists always just want you to think that immigrants are the reason why your wages are low. You guys know that net immigration has the lowest levels ever. Yeah, we have the Republicans always fearmonger over this border crisis, but more people leave the United States than people coming in. Like there was a story I read a long time ago. All these massive people.
That's to and from here. That census. Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, what was that, Ken?
No, I'm saying that's to and from here.
Yeah.
They're just talking about net international migration for some other. No, they're talking about here. Okay.
Yeah, and American migration is actually down because a lot of Americans are actually leaving this country. There's a study I saw that showed as many Americans are crossing the Mexican border as Mexicans are doing as well. Like these are all these things where, anyway, I think the capitalists, just the same way with the culture war, they take advantage of people's fear of the other. And it's very easy to convince them that they're responsible for their bosses and their managers stealing their labor and why housing prices. Like it doesn't add up once you understand how capitalism works. Once you understand how the theory of labor value, all this shit doesn't make up. Anyway, I'm ranting like a motherfucker in this stream. I think that last super chat. Let me do a quick.
Do we got any other ones or no?
Yeah,
I didn't see any other ones.
I think we good.
Yeah. I think Russell wanted to chime in. Then we'll close because I got to get going.
Yeah.
So Russell did. It felt like you wanted to say something. I saw you, but if you wanted to chime in, go ahead, sir.
You know, we talked a little bit last week about the People's Party and the populist movement and how they really saw educating the working class and how all these structures work as a big part of their project. Now, having come out of the working class and having seen industries where immigrants were pitted against working class native born workers in ways that generated resentment, you need to go to the working class and articulate that overall system. Because for them, what they experience is simply these people will work cheaper. And I used to be able to charge this much to paint a house. And now I got to charge this much to paint a house. And it doesn't go beyond that for them. Unless we go in and articulate a broader vision than that, you're going to have this anti-immigrant sentiment that's very common among the working class.
All right. I think we're going to end it there. It's 10:45 on the East Coast. It's 7:45 here. We
can go all day on these panels, man.
Yeah, we do eat dinner late here, so I'm about to eat dinner. We want to thank everybody for showing up. We plan on, hopefully we can get together for next week. We'll let everybody know. We'll try to do it on Monday or Tuesday. Usually is the usual time. We'll try to put these together. Hopefully you appreciate it. Show your appreciation by donating to the Labor and Employment Fundraiser, or joining us on Patreon, or just sharing this video. Either way, we thank you. No outro video today, so I'll drop all of the guests in the back. And then thank you, everybody who joined us today. And Nick, was there anything else you wanted? Oh, Nick took himself out. So,
oh yeah.
All right, so everybody, I was going to say,
I got nothing
you
to
wanted
plug.
to close?
I don't have much to plug. Nick at night tomorrow. Andrew should be joining me. I'm gonna try to see what kind of panel I can throw together at Nick at night. So that's all I have. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
I'm not sure I'll be here tomorrow, but you will know if you're on our Substack, and that is it. I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. Thank you for watching.